Truth?
The whole truth.
The whole truth?
And nothing but,
and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you may be seated, madam.
No problem. Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Njie Saidy.
Afternoon.
Welcome to the TRRC.
Thank you.
As you are aware, our country went through difficult times over 22 years of what is called the Jammeh dictatorship. This country has deemed it necessary to embark on a soul-searching mission aimed at trying to identify or aim at trying to come up with the truth about what happened in the country during this period, with a view to establishing a true historical record of what has happened, so that it would pave the way for the country to come back and heal as a nation. We reconcile and try to honor or give reparation to those who have been victimized. That is the whole essence of this exercise. It is no witch hunt. It is only aimed at trying to establish the truth. In that context, I would encourage you, in view of the position you had occupied in this country, to assist your country by speaking the whole truth about what you know to have occurred in the past. Are we together? Madam Vice President, I would encourage you to indicate by making a statement when you agree or disagree with a proposition. If you nod, we would know what you mean, but it would not be reflected on the record.
Right.
And perhaps may I also suggest that you draw the microphone closer to you so that you would not strain by leaning forward, but organize it as you wish. Just feel as comfortable as possible. Before I start, I want to warn that it is a criminal offense in this country to lie under oath. It is also an offense to lie to the TRRC. In that regard, I would encourage you to be as truthful as possible. Are we together? Thank you very much. Kindly tell us your full names, please.
Isatou Njie.
When were you born?
1952.
Could you give us a full date, please, if that is possible?
15th March 1952.
And where were you born?
Punta West North Bank region.
Thank you very much for precise answers. I would suggest that you allow for a brief moment, at least 3 seconds between our speeches, so that our statements or speeches would not overlap, because we have interpretation that is ongoing. Could you briefly give us a summary of your educational and professional background? We are running short of time, so we can go through that very quickly. Thank you, ma.
Yeah, I started really by primary education in Brikama Primary School, 1959 to 1964. I hope I'm not going fast for translation.
Oh, that is good speed.
Okay. From 1964 to 1970, Armitage High School. 1970 to 71, unqualified teaching at Brikama. They used to call it post-primary school, later junior secondary school. Then, 1971 to 1974, Yundum Teacher Training College, where I did the unqualified teacher training course for 3 years. 1974 to then I completed, went back again to Brikama Junior Secondary School until 1976. And from 1976, I went to the Indigenous Business Advisory Service, IBAS, until 1983. But during the summers, of course, of 1971 to 76, when I was a teacher, I always have holidays, and I used to teach the American Peace Corps on language and cross-cultural training. Then in 1983, in August 1983, I was appointed as Deputy Executive Director of the Women's Bureau under the Minister of course, under the President's office at the time. It was the First Republic. Then, after that, I was appointed as Acting Executive Secretary around 1990-91, around that time, up to 1992-93, something like that. I became the Executive Director of the Women's Bureau after that, until the advent of the July 22nd, 1994 coup d'etat. In 1996, I mean, it started in 96. The coup d'etat found me at the Women's Bureau, actually. But in 1996, somewhere there in the middle, I was appointed as Minister of Health, Social Welfare and Women's Affairs. And later as Vice President in 97, around there, as Vice President and Secretary of State for Women's Affairs and Social Welfare, as well as Health. Then, as Vice President, they took out Health, Health was taken out, and I became only Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs until the advent of the Third Republic. That's January 2017. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's a resume anyway.
Thank you very much.
I can't go through all the educational things. There are many, but I can drop that out.
Thank you very much. Perhaps you can tell us briefly about your higher education, just briefly.
Briefly, I did in the Netherlands. I did an advanced training in industrial management course, postgraduate. They call it the postgraduate diploma course. And in short, I also did the master's course, MSc, in economic and social studies in Wales, the University of Wales in Swansea. For short, there were others, but we can talk.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. From what we have heard, you have served in the Jammeh administration for 20 years.
Well, about that, maybe it's 76, sometime in 76.
From 1996
somewhere in,
to the end 2016 and 2017.
Yes, that's right.
That's 20 years. We can safely say that you are the longest serving government minister, perhaps in the history of the Gambia. Is that?
Yes.
I think that is right.
Yeah.
And the topics I want to talk to you about is mainly or principally April 10 and 11, 2000. But in addition to that, there are a few things, thematic issues I would wish to discuss with you. And the first, perhaps you may keep a list if you want, but I would raise them.
What do you raise them one after the other?
Yes. But just to put you on notice already, that we would talk about the attack on the media. We will talk about the attack on political opponents. We will talk about the unlawful arrests and detentions. We would talk about the sackings of civil servants or public officials. We will talk about the attack on students, that was the April 10 and 11. We will talk about accusations of coup d'etat. We will talk about the activities of the junglers, the false presidential treatment program, the use of the NIA as an instrument of terror, and Jammeh's intentions to crown himself king. We would talk about those topics, not in too much detail, but briefly, and we would want to hear what you have to say about them. But let's start with the attack on the students. April 10 and 11, the year 2000. At this time, the evidence we receive is that President Jammeh was away in Cuba.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right.
Who was in charge of the country during his absence?
Well, he made me acting president. He usually does when he travels. He writes.
And what do you understand that to mean?
Because he said acting president, something like we send response for centralized services. Whoever has a problem, they come to you, among the ministries, and you help them out.
In fact, under our constitution, acting president means that all the authority that is conferred on the president by the constitution is now bestowed on you.
Well, yes, it should be that way, but generally, President Jammeh, to be honest, was a strong man. You don't, even if he delegates you to do something, you still have to refer back to him. So you may be de facto, de jure, whatever, acting president, but most of the time, the president can be acting and yet not be absent. I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to say. That he can make you acting president, but there are a lot of things that have to refer to him even when he travels. That you cannot take major decisions without his clearance. That I know. Ministries would do that, we would do that, security, all other arms of government have to clear with him. So in effect, you cannot take all the decisions. I think one day, I don't know whether Gambians remember when he said, the vice president comes to me for everything. You see, I've even given her the acting, but I knew why I did that, and I knew why others also do that. Because you would have that responsibility, but to be honest, you have to clear most of the things with him, especially major decisions. You can't take them.
That may very well be the case, but until you refer to him, you are in fact the president.
Yeah, sure.
And the buck at that point would stop with you.
Sure.
Perfect. So tell us what happened in the days leading up to April 10th and 11, 2000.
What happened before April 10, I only heard it here. I didn't know. As I said, to be honest, what I told the investigators is what I know. What I knew, I didn't know of any pre-existing problems between students and government or students and whoever. Maybe the ministry would know, the Ministry of Education. Maybe others would know. Maybe the government knew, some other sectors of government. But the only time I knew about April 10th and 11th was when I went to see of the president at the airport. And that's where message got, when the president talks to you, you don't go directly and talk to him. He sends messages. So whoever sent the message to my protocol, I don't know. But the message reached my protocol at the airport that I should talk to the students because they have issues to talk about. They have certain concerns. That's all they told me.
At this stage, as vice president of the country, didn't you know that there was a problem in Birkama?
I didn't. I was told during the demonstration. After the demonstration, the security briefed me, yes. Then I knew.
Did you at any stage hear that a student called Ibrahim Bari was killed or died in Birkama?
I only knew when the demonstration happened and they explained that to me, yes. The security told me.
Did you hear before that day that a girl from Birkama secondary school was allegedly raped at the Independence
That
Stadium.
also the security told me when the demonstration happened.
Madam Vice President, did you read the newspapers about what was happening in your country?
But you know, newspapers, let me tell you, there was a time government also didn't allow us to buy newspapers or read them in the office. You remember that was a government law at one time, that you cannot have access to certain newspaper except the government one. I don't remember. News bulletin or whatever they call it.
My worry is that from the outset of your testimony, this theme that you did not know what was happening in the country would in fact become a major theme.
Yeah, I didn't know why, because me, I'm always, my office, my house. My office, my house. I don't go to booths or bantabas or listen anywhere else.
But Madam Vice President,
I didn't know.
One did not have to go to a VU or a bantaba.
I'm just giving an example.
To know issues of national interest.
But what I'm saying, I didn't know. I leave it to the commission to believe that I lied or I said the truth, but I'm telling you what I know.
No, it's not about lying.
I didn't know.
I do not for a moment believe that you are lying, but I am concerned that as Vice President of the country, you did not know issues of grave concern to the population.
Well, I didn't know. To be sorry, I'm sorry,
all right,
but I didn't.
let us move on. Let us move on. So you are tasked to talk to the students, and you did not know anything about what the issue was.
No, I didn't. They said they had concerns.
Okay, proceed, please.
They said this, I had concerns. So I said, okay, I told my protocol, since whatever the president tells you, maybe it's an urgent issue. My protocol was Babukar Jubati.
Thank you very much. Proceed.
So I told him, Babukar, you can call up a meeting. Because he told me, usually, the message was I should meet them at the Security Council level. So I said, call up the meeting and invite the Security Council, invite the Minister of Education, because that's what they told me, and invite GAMSU. Then they said the student leaders, the GAMSU leaders, I think it was. I said, invite them to my office for a meeting. Immediately, I told them I gave them a timing, 9 o'clock, I can't remember. 9 or 9:30.
And who else did you invite to participate in that meeting?
Well, usually it's only the Security plus, GAMSU plus Ministry of Education, mostly, yeah. Even though the Security Council is and the security themselves, the service chiefs, because security is composed of others, but the meeting anyway never happened, so.
But why did you deem it necessary to include the security officers?
Because all our meetings with the president, he usually says, all these concerns, all complaints should come to the Security Council. So, and he told me there to invite the security services, the Minister of Education, and GAMSU leadership. And I did exactly that. Yeah.
And when was the meeting to take place?
In the morning. I gave them 9 or 9:30. I can't remember.
In your office?
It was a long time, yeah.
All right. And what happened after that?
Well, I was sitting there waiting for a meeting. It took a long time. You know, I like respecting meeting times. So when the time passes, I complain. So I was there waiting, and time lapsed. Then I went to security and said, yeah, protocol. I said, protocol, go and check.
What time was this?
It was getting late, around 10 o'clock or something like that, 10:30.
And the meeting was supposed to start at
9:30, something like that.
Yes, and now this was 10:30 in the morning.
Yes, because you know, people don't, in the Gambia, people don't respect timing for meetings.
At this stage, did you hear about anything that was happening?
Oh yes, later, when the protocol checked.
So I mean that up to 10:30, did you know what was happening?
No, I didn't know. That's why I said, I only knew when I asked the protocol to find out what is happening, because I'm not seeing any service chief, I'm not seeing any of the people who should attend the meeting, so what is happening? Let him find out, because I didn't see anybody. And that was the time the protocol checked. He spoke to the service chiefs and on the ground, and they said, well, they have learned of a potential students' demonstration. So that's how I said, but these are the people I'm supposed to meet with, students, security. So if they are busy monitoring a demonstration, then the meeting would still be delayed further. So, but at that time, nothing happened. But I kept on telling protocol, let's check, let's check. He kept on ringing to find out.
Yes. Who did you talk to find out what was going on in the country?
The protocol put me in touch with Babukar Jatta as the first person I was able to get on the phone. I couldn't get anybody. But
who did you try to speak to before Babukar Jatta?
No, I don't remember. It was protocol I spoke to. I don't remember speaking to anybody before Babukar Jatta. I spoke to the protocol.
Who did you ask him to connect you to?
To all the service chiefs and those who should be at the meeting. But then when the demonstration started, I said, find out, talk to them, talk to everybody who should come to the meeting. But then he rang Babukar Jatta, I think, and others. I don't know who he contacted, but he contacted them, and he came and told me, well, the service chief said they cannot be here now because there is a potential demonstration, and they are monitoring the situation. This is what they told me.
At 10:30, you were told of a potential demonstration.
Around 10 or 10:30, I can't remember. It's been quite a while, yes.
Yeah. At this stage, you were told of a potential demonstration.
That there is a possibility that there is a demonstration being talked about, yes.
But from the evidence before this commission, clearly, a demonstration was well underway at this time.
It's possible.
So it just shows that the vice president did not know what was happening in the country at that point in time.
No, I didn't, to be honest.
And that is a serious problem, isn't it, Madam Vice?
It is, yes.
Proceed with...
yes.
There is a government, there is a head of the intelligence services, isn't it? And that person is answerable to the president. And this was a national problem at this time. You could not reach the chief of the intelligence service?
No, usually it's my protocol that connects me to these people, so I couldn't get any of them.
Did you make an effort to speak to the chief of the intelligence service?
It's only Babukar Jatta I finally got.
Tell us the conversation with Babukar Jatta.
No, we could not talk. It was loud. There was a lot of noise. And I could not talk to him. It was difficult. But I only get my information through protocol. Later that he told me, well, you know, Babukar Jatta, they've told him, is moving with the students from GTTI, MDI, around that area, Westfield, and around that vicinity, MDI and so on.
Madam Vice President, tell us at this point, what did you do to take charge of this emergency that was happening in the country?
I presume I could do very little other than getting the security to talk to them and find out, because already the demonstration has happened.
But those people have deputies, don't they?
Well, they do have deputies. But most of the time the deputies might be in the office, they might be with them, I don't know.
But did you, after not being able to reach the principals, did you make an effort to reach the deputies?
I didn't, to be honest, I didn't.
But wouldn't that have been a reasonable thing to do under the circumstances?
It should have, but it's a confusing situation where I couldn't even think of that.
Wouldn't that be another important failure?
Yes, it is, I admit.
Thank you very much. Let's proceed with what happened after you spoke to Babukar Jatta and you were not able to have a good conversation with him because of the noise. What happened afterwards?
I couldn't do much. I think it was only when they came to my office. I couldn't do anything. Because either I go to the venue where the demonstration is, and they would not allow me to do that. So I was just in a confusing state, just waiting to see whether it would subside, what would happen. I didn't know. But apparently it became even more serious. I heard that the violence has started. Again, I would get feedbacks from my protocol that violence has started and that there was vandalization. All that came during the day.
At what stage did you hear that violence has started?
After that 10:30 thing, but I don't know. I don't know the timing. It's been quite a while. And I was in a confused state, so I didn't realize that.
Was it before the arrival of the security chiefs or after?
No, they did arrival where? To the venue?
To your office?
No. The demonstration has started. They told me a long time. That's what I said. The violence has started. There was destruction. That's what they told me. My protocol gave me that feedback. And then when security came, of course, they also reiterated that point.
But at the point you realized that violence was taking place, what did you do?
I couldn't do much. Because I have to, whatever violence, when violence takes place, how do I stop it? I'm in my office. Everybody that should help with violence is out there with the security.
But here you are, the acting commander-in-chief of the armed forces of this country. So the question is... I
was not acting commander-in-chief, but yes.
How could you not have been acting commander?
Because they never give me that position. Security is not a thing that President Njie would hand over on a slave platter to anybody to handle in his absence. Because he thinks that he controls security, he knows more about security than any one of us, and he knew that mine is a civilian background, he'll never leave it with me. Just to give an example, when he appointed me as Minister of Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, remember that there was a Minister of Defense who was also Vice President, but he didn't give me that portfolio of defense. Maybe he knew my weakness in security, but I didn't have knowledge of it, perhaps, I don't know. But he didn't give that to me. But the issue of when he travels also, he never tells me you are commander-in-chief of the Gambia Armed Forces or whatever. He tells me you are acting president. And he takes away that position. Immediately he arrives, he revokes it. Yes.
Madam Vice Chair, we are not Vice President. We are not talking about you being given a ministerial position with the title Minister of Defense. What we are talking about here, what we are talking about here is that you are given the title acting president.
Yes.
The acting president comes with the responsibility for everything in the country during the absence of the president, and that includes the armed forces.
It should, yeah.
And in reality, it did.
Well, it never, throughout my services acting, I've never, for example, had the responsibility or been given the responsibility to, for example, command the army or tell the army what to do or tell the NIA, or especially those under his office, which is defense, and the NIA. Mostly I can deal with the police, but interior matters. But when it comes to the NIA and defense, they were under the president's purview, the office of the president. Even if I'm acting president, there are limitations as to what I can do with those. Well, you can ask them, the service chiefs are there, but most of the issues they need to advise to government, they usually address it to the office of the president directly.
But at this stage, the office of the president was in fact at your doorstep.
Supposed to be, yes.
It actually was at your
well, that's what I can agree on.
As acting president, there is nothing in the constitution which says that you do not have responsibility for defense.
De facto de jure, yes.
Yes, there is nothing that said so. All right. So let us proceed. After you learned about violence that was ongoing, tell us what happened next in your office.
Then they told me about destruction also of the Serekunda police station, Bundung police station, fire service, Churchillstown, and quite a few places, and destruction of private property, etc.
And then what happened after that?
And I had no choice but to wait until the services come to my office and we proceed. And I found out more from them what happened, because this information came informally through my protocol to me, that this is what was said. So now I waited until they came, and they came one after the other to my office. Like we didn't have a normal meeting, because that was not a normal day.
At what stage did they start arriving at your office?
I can't remember. You know, it's been a long time, but they came much later, after that violence and destruction that they talked about.
11 a.m.?
It could be 2, I don't know, 12. I can't remember. To be honest, I can't remember. It's been a while.
We just had Babukar Jatta testify before the commission, and he said he is certain that he was in your office by 12 noon.
It's possible. I wouldn't.
Tell us what happened in your office when the service chiefs arrived.
Yeah, we met. I spoke to them. But as we are speaking to them, I think the president also, I was trying to get the president, I told you. When all that happened and things were reported to me, I tried through my protocol to ring the president and tell him that the meeting he asked me to do, because he told me, get back to me. And he always does, anyway. So I rang him, but I couldn't get him. Kiba, I think the lines are bad. So I couldn't get him. So, but later, Jawate came and told me the president now is available to speak to me. But I was there with other people in my office, service chiefs, or there were service chiefs anyway. It was quite a while. So he spoke to all of us. He spoke to me, and he spoke to those who were in my office, because he asked about them. He said, where are the services? I said, they're here. Some of those who were there. Not everybody was there, because I don't remember seeing Rex King there.
Could you kindly tell us who you remember being there?
I don't remember, but Babakar Jatta was surely there. But other people were going and coming. I know Usman Baji also used to come to my office at the time. On that day, he came several times.
What if I tell you that Usman Baji suggested that he was not there in your office?
He never came? That's strange. Because they are the people who helped me prepare the statement. The statement that I read.
Apparently he accepted later that he was there.
No,
I am not
there.
sure whether he was in your office on the day of April 10th.
No, he was there.
All right. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you very much.
They prepared the statement.
Babakar Jatta was there, you said. Okay. Kindly tell us what you discussed with the president.
I told him exactly what I'm telling you now. That the meeting he asked me to convene, I couldn't, because there was a demonstration. A student's demonstration instead. This is what was reported to me by security, and I reported exactly what security told me. That there was destruction, the destruction of property. For example, the police facilities in Bundung and Serakunda and Churchillstown. So exactly what they told me is what I report. They were sitting there when I was talking to him.
Did he say anything to you?
That's why I'm saying, okay, in the commission they said he's used some vulgar language. I said, I don't remember. It was a difficult situation, but I don't remember that he did
Kindly tell us, Madam Vice President, what the President said.
I don't remember. All he said is, oh, yes, okay, Vice, where are the service chiefs? Then I gave him those who were in my office, and he spoke to them.
That is the only bit you remember?
That's what I remember. But I had, in the commission, I was listening here, I had, he spoke to me and said something. But Lalo or something mentioned something. He could have said it, because the president has that kind of language, but I don't remember, to be honest.
The evidence,
because I never told anybody about that issue in the meeting.
The evidence,
but that was said,
the evidence we have is that these young boys were to be dealt with in any which way.
It's possible. He may have said it, but I don't remember. Yeah.
In fact, he implied that these students must be attacked and dealt with seriously.
Maybe. I don't want to argue. I said maybe, but definitely I don't remember that. It doesn't register in my mind. And
this was a directive to you as acting president?
President has never given me directives of that nature throughout my service when it comes to security. I told you, he's jealously guards security. Right. And he himself takes care of security. Why would he tell me when he can also direct the army commander, the CDS, Chief of Defense Staff?
In fact, we have the exact words here. He said, take care of these bastards in whatever way, but in whatever form.
But President knows that I don't, no matter how much he gives directives, and we carry out directives, but he's never given me this sort of directive to go and deploy an army to do something, no.
Well, you just said a little earlier that this is the kind of language
he uses here. I know that's his language.
So you would not be surprised, therefore, that this is a language.
I would not be surprised.
That's right. And somebody who was sitting right next to him testified on the oath to say that this is the language that he used.
Maybe, but was it to me? That's my issue, because we spoke to all of us there.
No.
It's strange.
The strange thing is, you are willing to accept that this is the language he would use. He
can use that.
You cannot remember what he told you.
To be honest, and I don't want to come here and lie. I don't remember that.
Is it the case, Madam Vice President, that you just would not accept that this is the language he used?
No, this is the language he used. He can use that language. I wouldn't be surprised.
Exactly, precisely the point.
But I don't remember him using that, telling me that.
Is this not a case of selective memory?
No,
you are able to remember what is not harmful. You are able to remember the benign aspect of what he said, but you're not willing to remember the serious aspect of what he said.
Honestly, to tell you the truth, I don't remember. And I'm not going to make up a story here.
Okay,
because I have sworn to this Quran, no, I can't.
Let us proceed. In fact, you are not denying that he said this.
No, he can say things.
What you are saying is you cannot remember whether he said it or not.
Definitely, I can't remember him saying that. Yes.
But you are not denying that he said it.
He can say rough things, but I didn't, to be honest, I don't remember that.
Okay, let us proceed. After speaking to you, he spoke to some of the service chiefs. Yes,
Babu Kajata was there were others, yeah.
And who else did he speak to?
I can't remember, it's been a long time.
As a collective, did you discuss what is to happen next?
Yes, we had Security Council meetings. We meet regularly. And when Babu Kajata and others came, we met, I asked them, because I have to have the briefing. I didn't know what the situation is. They are the ones who give the situation. So then I asked them, what else? Because, when it comes to security, they are the experts. I'm not an expert in security. I depend on their advice. So I asked them, what else? Then that was the time Babu Kajata explained to me how they deal with these sorts of things, when there's a potential demonstration, a riot, and so on. He told me that what we first of all do is we collect intelligence. There will be intelligence, information. He told me also that then general duty, I even told the investigators when they came to my house, I told them that the general duty, he told me that then they deploy general duty if it doesn't go away, if it happens. Okay? Then when they cannot handle it, he told me that they take the PRU. He said if the PRU cannot handle it, then they use the army as a backup. He told me that. Because he's an expert in that area, yes. At
this stage, were you informed of what was happening on the ground?
What they told me is the destruction, that the students were not cooperating, there was destruction and all that, demonstration. That's all they told me. And then they destroyed all those facilities, yes.
Did you agree the government intervention that would take place subsequently?
No, I didn't agree. We discussed as a, Security Council, let me tell you, it's an advisory, it has an advisory capacity. It cannot take major decisions. All major decisions are referred again to the president. But, because even if we discuss in security, we mean it to him. And he agrees or disagrees. Okay. And most of it is about internal security. But on this day, all I remembered is this thing he told me, what the strategies they use. And then we discussed it at the level of the Security Council, and that was it. And every sector was to go and implement the strategy that relates to them. But I don't remember those details. But I remember that we discussed as a Security Council, and they advised me.
Did the Security Council, who chaired the Security Council?
I chaired it. I chaired it.
Exactly. And you, at this stage, you were the most senior government official in the country.
Oh, sure.
The buck stopped with you, correct?
It's supposed to be, yes.
Yes. And you, in fact, chaired the Security Council.
I did.
And you were informed of a national emergency, correct? And then decisions were made, correct? What were the decisions made?
I think it was mainly to see how to address the demonstration. That's what they said. Because demonstration was already on anyway. It was already on. And they said how to address the demonstration later in the day.
But these are questions and not decisions. What you told us are just questions.
Yeah, I don't think we had a clear decision. All they said, each of them was going to see, usually the services, let me tell you one thing, they work together before they even come to Security Council. But in this instance, maybe it was an emergency. They didn't have time to work together.
Vice President,
and they come up with a position to the Security Council.
Do you want the Commission to believe that you chaired the National Security Council on this important emergency and no decision was made as to what to do?
They debriefed me on issues.
What were the decisions made?
Decisions, they debriefed me on the issue. It's been a long time, Council. If I want to guess here, I would not be telling the right thing. But if I remember rightly, it was a very confusing day, but decisions that were made, we discussed the issue. And that there was destruction, what to do about it. And later they all told me also, as a result of the destruction of security facilities, some of them need to be put in place quickly because they were in very vulnerable areas.
Madam Vice President, if you do not tell us the decision that you took, I would tell you what the evidence is. We've been informed by a member, a person who was present, Mr. Babukar Jatta, that you ordered him to deploy the military to the ground.
I didn't. I didn't, because I've never done it in my life as Vice President for the number of years I served. So why should I do it now then?
But the strange thing is, how can the Security Council sit under your chairmanship as acting president on the issue of a national emergency and that no decision has been made? All you did was to ask questions?
But let me tell you, if Babukar Jatta says that it's strange, he can deploy without my clearance.
That would be illegal.
Well, it can happen.
But that would be illegal. You would accept that.
But it can happen. Yes.
But you would accept that would be illegal.
Yeah, well, now if I was acting commander-in-chief, but I told you I wasn't. But
clearly
would be seen
you
as
are
illegal
under the Constitution.
But it has never happened. I've never acted as commander-in-chief.
Well, perhaps now you would deny.
No, not now. Even then.
Perhaps now you would deny that you are not acting commander.
I told you, anything to do with security, the president is jealous about security. You cannot take any decisions on security without his clearance. I'm telling you that.
Okay. When you sat there as a National Security Council
chair
and as chair, and you asked these questions, that this was a national emergency, there was a demonstration, properties were being vandalized and destroyed, what did you decide to do?
Well, I don't think I remember. All I remembered is we must address the issue and bring stability to the country. That I know. We talked about in general terms.
But again, on a critical issue, you are choosing, I don't remember.
No, I'm saying I don't remember because it's been a long time. If anybody had the records, maybe they can tell. We didn't keep minutes because it was an emergency. Yeah.
But the trend is now emerging of I don't remember, selective amnesia. The first is what you discussed with Yaya Jammeh. Did he say, take care of these bastards? You don't remember.
But also, tell me, I'm telling you that even if he said that, but I don't remember. Exactly. But even if he said that, how do I implement that?
Well, this
because
is what
President says a lot of things which we ignore in cabinet. He tells us a lot of things, we ignore them. We know that he's only angry, he doesn't mean it.
Okay.
Sometimes that's what we feel anyway.
Okay, but what I'm trying to drive at is this emerging trend on all the important issues I don't remember. First is the order or the instructions given by Jammeh, you don't remember.
I don't remember telling you.
Now the decision that was arrived at by the Security Committee Council, you also don't remember.
Just to ensure that calmness, we go back to calmness and we stabilize the situation.
How were they to do that?
Well, I'm not an expert in security. They would usually come up with recommendations on how to do it.
But Madam Vice President...
That each of these services would do whatever. Usually they work together, the services. And they usually tell me that, yeah.
You are acting president of the country.
I know.
You are supposed to take charge of the country. And that is why the president spoke to you.
No, not only me. I initiated that call.
It would help if we listen to one another. Let me finish my question. You are in charge of the country. You are supposed to make decisions. You are supposed to ensure that those decisions were implemented, correct? Okay. Now here you are with your service chiefs. This is a national emergency. You said the situation was to be stabilized. How was this to be done?
I'm not an expert in security. I get my advice from them. And I can't remember in detail what they said. But I only knew that it was to stabilize the situation and make sure that normalcy comes back.
What did they advise you to do?
They did advise me to do something. we usually speak as a family in security. In security, yes, I may be the chair, but we only speak as a family. Each of them, in fact, we agree to disagree on a lot of things. But this was an emergency situation. To tell you the truth, I don't remember the details. But definitely it was to ensure that there's normalcy in the country. And each of the services will work together to ensure that they stabilize the situation.
But this is the crux of the matter. This is the critical issue. You, as the National Security Council, was the central coordinating point of government intervention, wasn't it?
We were, but there was no time. Because this was a very tight day. A lot has happened. People are traumatized. There wasn't time to remember all these things. Things were happening. And you cannot keep the security there for long. They have to go back and ensure that they normalize the situation. Yes.
Thank you. My worry is the Vice President of the country is sitting here and telling us that she could not remember what decision was taken.
No, it was the stabilization of the situation, but they won't give you details. You see, let me tell you how security operates. Security has what they call operational issues. They don't discuss that in Security Council. They just discuss generalities. And each of the services go back and did their own, because they are the experts in that area. I'm not, you know? Yeah.
You led a meeting to stabilize the situation. And you cannot tell us how that situation was to be stabilized.
That's definitely the job of security. They have the expertise. They know what to do to stabilize the situation. I don't.
Again, lack of knowledge on your part.
Yes, I admit that. I said I'm not a security expert. I don't have security background.
No, we're not suggesting that you have that knowledge.
Yeah.
The issue is you cannot even recall what decision was taken.
No, to be honest, it was an emergency meeting. I cannot recall. Again, because security was supposed to go back immediately.
Again, you cannot remember.
Huh?
Again, you cannot remember.
What? The issues?
All right.
I said to stabilize.
Okay, let's proceed. Yeah. Let's proceed. What happened after that in your office?
In my office. Later, they told me several things. I think even in that meeting, they told me that, or later, they told me that we had a series of meetings. People come in and out. They told me that, I think, if I remember rightly, that some of the Gamsu leaders were arrested, I think, the leadership. They mentioned that in the security meetings. I don't remember whether it was the second meeting or which meeting, because we never had a normal meeting. Because the security on those 2 days were going in and out, in and out. Sometimes I meet one, sometimes I meet two.
Did the government pronounce itself about what has happened?
Of course, of course. They wrote a statement for me. After that security meeting, they wrote, during the security or after, I can't remember. But they wrote a statement. And it was the services that wrote it and brought it to my attention. And I think I just forgot to say that in that statement, they also said there was shooting. And shooting came from the crowd. I think, and then they said, talked about all the vandalization, which I also mentioned to you. That was all part of the statement, yes.
Could you tell us how the statement was written? You have told us
the services wrote it. And they usually bring it to me. I look at it. I take it back. They work on it. Of course, if I have questions, I ask. Because there are instances where, when they said there was shooting came from, I didn't know there was any shooting on the ground. I didn't know until I read the statement. I said, "But shooting?" And I asked them the question, "Are you sure there was shooting? And what kind of shooting?" "Oh, yes, there was shooting. It came from the crowd." I think the statement also covered that there were rogue elements in the crowd, that there was a crowd, and indeed there were rogue elements also among the students. This is what they told me. But I don't remember. I don't have the statement now. I can't remember everything.
When did you get to learn about the shootings?
I only knew after.
When?
Because in the statement said there was shooting, but I didn't take it. I didn't know what kind of shooting, and shooting was in the crowd. There was shooting that came from the crowd. When I read the statement, it was there.
Okay.
But when people died, I didn't know until after. when I left the hospital, because I went to visit. Remember, afterwards I went to visit the affected areas.
And then, when did you know about death among
I think after I left the
shooting by security officers?
That people died. I only knew about that when I left the hospital, I think, and was going to my office or something like that. Somebody mentioned that to me.
And that would be how many days after the incident?
No. It should be the second day, I think, or this also, or the third. I can't remember when I went to the hospital. Again, dates, timelines. You know, it's been quite a while.
So you only got to learn about deaths of students
actually people were
second
killed.
Or third day after the event?
Something like that. I went to the hospital either the second or third. I can't remember.
So the statement that was written, was Njie consulted?
Usually he should, because you see, you don't write anything about the president without consulting him. You cannot read anything on his behalf because it's his statement, not mine. So usually, I know that when this statement was written, the office of the president was there, the Minister of Defense, Minister of Interior, well, the services, because they didn't write it in my office. They went to, I think, Defense and wrote it there. But we are in the same room. We are in the same facility, in the same part of the building.
Do you recall, or do you not, whether Njie was consulted?
I think he should be, but again, I only said he should be consulted, because there is hardly a statement we write for him without consulting. But I didn't do the consultation, so he could be consulted by the office of the president, because mostly that's what happens.
Did you consult him on the action you are going to take as a Security Council?
No, since then we spoke to the we didn't speak to the president manager. It's not easy to get the president.
All right, proceed, please. And what happened for the rest of that day? A statement had been written. So what happened after that?
I don't know whether the statement preceded my visit or the visit preceded the statement. I wasn't sure. But definitely a statement was written, and I went to visit the facilities. Where the destruction happened.
Same day or different days?
Huh?
Was it the same day or was it different days?
I can't remember. Again, I don't want to say something that is not the right thing. But I can't remember.
Wasn't the press release issued immediately?
As soon as possible, I was able to. Immediately, I got the services to my office. That's the time I worked on the press release.
Good.
They worked on it.
So you issued a press release?
No, I read a statement.
Yes, you read out a statement. Yeah. And thereafter, you also spoke to the press at a different date?
I don't remember. Maybe it's possible.
All right. What happened after that?
I know I went to visit the facilities where the destruction happened. I know that I did that. I know as I was coming to my office, they also told me there are people in the hospital. I told my protocol, then let's pass by before we go to the office. And we went to the hospital to see some of those who were wounded. And we went with the hospital, authorities.
And was that the time you first learned about casualties?
That the destruction. No, I didn't know about the deaths.
Yeah.
But I knew about that people were wounded. That's the time, yes.
So that was the first time you knew about the death?
The wounding of the people, yes.
Okay. Did you ask for a briefing from the security officers at the end of that first day?
I did ask them, even in Security Council, and they said, well, you know, it's a confrontation between the students and the security. It's as a result of that people were wounded and that people died.
And subsequently, when did Njie return?
I can't remember.
But even before that, the next day there was also intervention by security forces.
On the
11th?
Oh yeah, it's 10th and 11th, yes. Those are the 2 years.
And what do you know about that?
I don't know. Those are operational details. I don't know. But I know that security was trying to stabilize the situation in the country. But I didn't know the details.
Where in the country?
Throughout the country. Because demonstrations, they told me we are in the provinces, but the only time they told me in CRR, then I talked to the governor there,
Where in CRR?
No, they told me generally in CRR. Then they mentioned, I think, Birkamaba afterwards, and I don't know, all over the place. But I spoke to the governor.
Madam Vice, was it clear to you what situations you were dealing with?
No.
Was it clear to you what situation you were dealing with?
Situation like what? That there was a demonstration and
this national emergency.
Yeah, it's a serious issue, yes.
Were you clear at the time what you were facing, the gravity of this problem, and where were the pockets of trouble?
Yes, that's why they told me Birkama, but it was security that would advise me. I wasn't there. But I spoke to Omar, the governor, Trrc, and he said, well, he has tried, but he cannot, ACRR is a big area. He couldn't do much. And he himself, I think, was suffered also.
And what happened after all that?
Well, after all that, I think later the president came, but can't remember when he came back. But I learned about the deaths. I told you that. Okay. Then they told me these people died, so yes. I said, but keep a record of it. Because they said usually they have what they call the criminal records office or something like that. I said, then take pictures and keep a record of the patients, because one day there might be an investigation.
So what happened after that? After President Njie returned?
When President returned, I think he also gave a statement. But he also met us in cabinet, that I remember. And he said there will be an investigation, because I told him how the country feels. Because I got a feedback after that, because I met several people, remember. It was a chaotic situation, but I did meet a cross-section of the community, Gambian opinion leaders. I met, I think, diplomats. So I met them with security and told them to give, let us give an explanation of what has happened, because they need to know. You don't leave all these people like that without telling them, because diplomats would be the first to get worried about the situation. Then when we met them, they told us that they are worried about deaths of students and wounding of students, and really.
And how many died?
Later they told me, I didn't know the figure at that time, but later, I think the coroner's report was the one that revealed really the amount.
So before the coroner's report,
they just said people died.
You did not know how many
I didn't know
died.
The amount.
Did you inquire?
Yeah, I didn't, but they just told me that. Remember, this is you see, it's easy for me to sit behind here and just say things. It was not a normal period. You don't remember all these things to say how much this. You move. You had other things to do. You had a meeting to do. I said, if there are deaths, my advice is you should keep a record of it, because one day there could be an investigation. And when the president comes, you also show it to him.
But you did not inquire as to how many deaths occurred?
I don't remember. Honestly, it was the coroner's inquest that gave the amount, 14 or something like that. Yeah. When the president came?
Yes. Thank you.
He gave a statement. I remember that he made a statement.
What was the mood of the country at the time?
No, the country definitely, everybody wanted something to be done about this. That I know. They felt sad. Everybody was worried. Because Gambians don't like instability, generally. So they were worried.
What actions were taken by the government?
The president, not the government, the president said he would set up a commission. He would investigate, that's all he said. Then now we heard about the latter commission, but first of all we heard about the coroner's inquest, yes. Not that everybody was involved in coming up with the coroner's inquest or Did you appear before that commission? No, I didn't. Because I didn't even know it was on until I had it being set up, yes.
But don't you think that your appearance there was critical?
Well, it would have helped maybe. I don't know.
But it ought to have happened.
Well, it should have happened maybe, and I would have still explained like I'm doing now.
And the fact that it did not happen, in fact, suggests a deliberate step to avoid an important and critical part of that inquiry.
Well, I wasn't the decider of whether to go to a committee, because I didn't even set it up. Once the president travels and comes, he takes over his responsibility. I don't get involved until he delegates again. tells me what to do.
Weren't you concerned
Of course.
that you were not called to this commission of inquiry?
No, I was not. I didn't even know there was. He said he'll set up. I heard that a commission was set up. Whoever they interviewed, I didn't know, to be honest, because I had my own responsibilities given to me again at the office.
But didn't you feel that as acting president at the time, whose responsibility it was to make major decisions, you were not even called to the commission of inquiry?
Well, I wasn't called. I didn't know the commission was on until it went very far. I didn't know.
That just shows a deliberate effort to put aside an important segment of the task at hand, that is the inquiry.
Maybe the president then should have told all of us to go to the commission and report.
Maybe you could have volunteered, because major decisions were made in your office, and that fact was not even presented before the commission.
No, I don't know. Anyway, I didn't suggest it. When president wants you to be there, he does it. When he doesn't want you to be there, he wouldn't tell you. I was not involved. Even in the setting of the latter commission or the coroner's inquiry, I was not involved.
But you would agree that the events that took place in your office were critical to the commission establishing the truth about what has happened?
Maybe even if I wasn't there, maybe Babukar Diatta, who went, and others would explain what we discussed. Maybe.
So you would agree that that was a critical issue?
Yeah, it should be.
It should have appeared before that commission.
It should be.
Okay. How did the government handle the matter afterwards? After
I know they set up the commissions. There was a latter commission. There was the coroner's inquest was very clear that really people were shot, and all the 14 who were shot by gunshot wounds. I saw the report.
Okay. And
then the other commission, latter, I don't have the details of their terms of reference or whatever, but I know that when it ended, I think either the president, I don't know, gave this amnesty. Either the commission did the amnesty or president, I wasn't sure. He gave amnesty to both soldiers and students. He called them all perpetrators among the soldiers and perpetrators among the students. That I knew was done at the end of the commission. Who did it now, whether it was the commission that recommended or it was the president that recommended it, I wasn't sure. But I know they did an indemnified all of them.
Through an act of parliament, wasn't it?
I think somebody took it to parliament, yes.
Madam Vice President, you presided over the affairs of this country during this period. Weren't you concerned that an indemnity act was being passed to ensure that there was no justice?
No, I wasn't sure that it was meant to ensure there was no justice. I thought what the president said at the time, and that's what I thought was, he said it's to ensure peace and stability in the country. He forgives everybody, gives everybody amnesty. Did
you look at the act? Did you read it?
Which act? The indemnity act? No, I don't remember it now. No. It could have come to cabinet, but I don't remember. Because acts, if they are not urgent, they would come to cabinet. A select committee on acts first. It would be the Attorney General that works on it, then a select committee on acts, then the cabinet committee on acts. That's what I mean. Then it comes to the whole of cabinet, then it goes to the National Assembly. That's what I know.
My point is, you were vice president.
I was.
This act concerns matters affecting your tenure as acting president. You did not even read the act?
I said maybe I saw it, but it must have come. I don't remember the details. It could have come because under normal circumstances, an act would not just be sent to under normal. I mean, it could happen, but under normal circumstances, the act should come to cabinet. But I don't remember. Maybe one of my cabinet colleagues would remind us. Then it goes to the National Assembly. It first comes to cabinet. That I know.
But the thing is, you don't know what is contained in that act.
Oh, what is contained, from what I remember, is an indemnifying the people. And I think later I heard they said indemnify anybody, they took it backwards or something like that. I only heard that after. That, I don't know which year, from which year to that time period, that certain people will be indemnified.
Don't you find it serious that as vice president you do not know what happened, especially
I wasn't at the National Assembly. I didn't take it there either. So.
Anything about the act?
So maybe because of the urgency of the matter, it was just taken to the National, but I can't remember. I don't want to say something here that I don't know.
Did you just wash your hands off the issue of April 10th and 11th soon after the president arrived?
I was concerned, but the president took it all over. You see, anything you do when you are acting president, when the president comes, immediately he revokes. He writes to you that I have revoked you to be responsible for all these things. So he takes it over.
But he cannot revoke an act that you have already done.
No, I didn't do the act. That act to the National Assembly.
You made decisions at the Security Council.
We discussed at the Security Council. Anyway, yeah.
So we are going back to that. Are you telling us here that no decision was taken at the Security Council?
Oh, we discussed, but I can't remember what the... Again, we can ask other services, but I don't remember the details of what was definitely agreed on. But I know generally we agreed to stabilize the situation in the country. That I know.
Okay, we will move on. So after the events, did you give any orders or directions to the security forces that were involved in operations?
Orders.
Advice, direction?
No, I don't advise. We discuss. In security, we are a family. We discuss.
Did you?
I don't give separate orders or whatever. We discuss because they are the experts in this area. They deal with operations. I don't deal with that.
Do you recall giving any instructions, directions, guidance, advice as to what they should do?
No, because I don't do it alone. We meet and discuss. You see, in security, we meet as, it's not like me giving the directives or deciding or setting the agenda or whatever. We discuss as a group, and then they advise me on what action should be taken. Because they are the experts.
They advise you on what?
On what should be taken, as a country.
And the decision making?
On that day.
Rests with you?
Well, it should rest with me, I presume, if that is what it is. You see, I'm not afraid of taking responsibility if I did it, if I said it. But what I didn't say, if I wouldn't, I'd also be forced to say I said it.
But,
see,
but Madam Vice President, how could you not take responsibility for actions that have been taken at the time when you were acting president?
That I didn't do, but I take responsibility being the overall head of the country, yes.
Precisely, yes.
Eventually, I take responsibility. I'm not afraid of taking responsibility. Even where I didn't direct or I didn't know or I was not involved, I take responsibility as the head there.
Well, you would take responsibility of the decisions of the National Security Council.
Everything.
So now let's go back a few steps behind as to what happened on that day. And I would take you
on the 10th
as to when you learned about the shootings against the students. Isn't it odd that as Vice President, you only learned about student casualties 2-3 days after the fact?
It's possible 2 days after or 3.
Where were you?
I was in my office.
The whole country knew
and I went.
The whole country knew that students were killed.
They knew, I didn't know.
And the Vice President of the country, with responsibility over all the forces in the country, did not know that students were killed. I was busy
with these meetings, with consultations, with finding out. So, how would I know? I went to see the venue. I did the best I can. I went to the hospital to see those who were sick. So, people would not get near you. If you are Vice President, you are surrounded by all the security, you are moving, you don't even access people. Who would tell you? Who would tell you? It's only I told you, the diplomats and the cross-section of Gambians who made me know some of those things.
Madam Vice President.
Meeting some of the principals, etc.
As acting president of the country, it is a serious disaster that you did not know what was happening in the country.
Well, it does happen. If you are not informed, you wouldn't know.
It should not have happened.
It should not have, but it has.
It's hard to believe that you did not know what was happening.
I didn't.
Is this another case of I do not know?
You can be surprised that in government, you can be in government and not another part of government knows something that the other doesn't. It does happen.
But the radio stations were announcing deaths.
But I didn't have time to listen to any radio. By the time I reached my home, it's midnight. That was a difficult...
State House was just right next to the National Hospital.
Yes, I went
Casualties
to the
were being brought in all the time.
I didn't see.
The sirens were going.
I didn't know.
And yet still you didn't know?
No, and I'm not going to say here that I know when I didn't.
Isn't this another case of selective amnesia?
No, it's not selective. I didn't know. I only knew when they explained to me, and I told them to take a record. They said they have what they call the CRO. I said, take a record. Tell them to take a record and keep it when the president comes, and also for further possible investigations. Because if there are deaths, there must be investigations.
Now let's talk about the orders. The evidence we have is that we have spoken about what you can recall Yaya Jammeh telling you. That is, he ordered that you order the forces to go and... But you said you can't remember that.
The forces, no.
All right.
He may have said that language that you talked about, but in the thick of things, it was very confusing, and I don't remember that.
Okay, but if he may have said...
He may have.
Wouldn't that really amount to an order?
If he said it. But he would have qualified the order in detail. But I'm telling you that the president, unless because he's far away, but he never tells me orders to tell the security generally. He tells me orders about sectors, but generally about security,
and the security is not a sector?
He guards that. I said other sectors, civilian sectors. But he guards that usually. He guards anything to do with the army, the security in general. Well,
Babukar Jatta was here, and he said you ordered him to send the military.
I said it's not true, but we discussed in Security Council. He came, he gave his position, everybody gave his position, and then I think what security agreed at the time was to stabilize the situation in the country, and they all went and did whatever they have to do on their own.
But did they, are you saying they did what they did on their own?
No, I'm saying every sector would do what is as per your responsibility. So security is responsible for ensuring their security and stability. And that's exactly what they went to do.
Well, the problem
in the country,
here...
Because it was remember, this was ages ago, 19 years. You want me to remember every bit that happened? It was a confusing situation? No.
But this is an event that happened once in 22 years.
Yes,
so therefore, it is so important...
But so many things happen in 22 years. It's difficult for me to remember.
Could we avoid speaking over each other? Otherwise, it would... Right. The thing is, Madam Vice President, the people you want us to believe that no decision was taken.
There was. Decisions would be taken, but jointly by the Security Council. I told you that. I said maybe there were decisions taken, just like all decisions were related to stabilizing the situation.
Let me make life a little easier. A decision was taken to intervene using the security forces.
No.
Correct?
It was not intervention. It was to ensure security. I don't know whether you call that intervention.
But how were they to ensure security?
They go back there, they know what to do. They are experts in security, supposedly.
So did you expect that by bringing back stability, they would just go and sit in their offices
No, I didn't say
and everything would become calm?
I didn't say that. Maybe they'll deploy troops, maybe they'll deploy their security officers out there.
What did you expect? What did you expect would happen?
I would expect the intelligence people, for example, to collect more intelligence about what is happening and why the demonstration, because when the security forces came to my office, if I remember rightly, they said it's not only students, there were people behind this, the demonstration. And they also mentioned, I think that there were rogue elements in the crowd, and we don't know who those rogue elements are. So maybe they can even worsen the situation. So I think Council agreed that they should go now and address the issue.
Do you think, let's dissect your words. I think Council agreed that they should go and what?
Stabilize the situation.
And stabilize the situation. It's difficult for the Commission to accept that statement. But because let me finish, Madam Vice President, because in fact you are telling us you are not sure of what you're talking about.
When I say I think it's 19 years ago. I can only say I believe.
But by saying that...
No, we don't have minutes,
By saying that I think, you are telling us that you don't know.
No, I said it maybe. When I say I think, maybe it's my language. But when I say I think I believe this is what happened, and that's what I meant.
Tell us what you believe happened.
What I believe happened was the security forces, after that council meeting, went back to stabilize the situation. Each of the services had their responsibilities.
Let's address ourselves to the agreement that was arrived at by the Security Council, the decision that was taken. That's what we want to know.
That's what I mean, to go back there and stabilize the situation in the country, because the country needs to be stable, there needs to be security. Bring it back to normalcy. And
that decision was taken together with you as acting president?
Yeah, sure. Because they explained that to me, yes.
Okay. How were they to do that?
Well, I think they know best. They are experts in their areas. I cannot tell you the police would be deployed in this place, or the army would work with the police in the other area, or intelligence would do that. Those were operational issues. That they have the expertise. All I can do, all we did really in the security country, is to agree that definitely the country should be stabilized. It should be brought back to normalcy.
But that is hard to believe, Madam Vice President. You have such a national emergency, and all you would tell the security chiefs is go and stabilize the situation.
That's all I will tell, because I cannot tell.
Let me finish. Without having any idea in your head as to how that was going to happen.
Because I'm not an expert, I don't deal with operations. I don't know. They are the ones who advise me on that. And even in
Madam
security,
Vice
when
President,
they came...
Do you honestly think you are doing a good service for your country?
To the best of my ability, that's what I thought.
But do you honestly believe you are doing a good service for your country when in this period of national emergency, you are telling the service chiefs, go and stabilize the situation? You had no clue what they were going to do.
No, I wouldn't. Those are details, operational details. They won't tell me that. In Security Council, general issues are discussed. But this, especially related to this, one of the few times we had to deal with this situation.
Madam Vice President, what would be details? Would be what type of gun they would use?
I don't know.
Or what type of water cannons they would use?
That's an operational issue. Commander is responsible. The commanders, the CDS should be responsible.
I agree. But whether you will deploy forces, that is a matter for you to decide.
Okay, maybe it was discussed, but I don't remember saying deploy forces here or there.
But that is precisely the problem. On all the critical issues, you don't remember.
But definitely, I know that we discussed it and we said the situation should be stabilized. That I did remember.
And stabilized, and let me do it differently. You agreed that the army would be deployed, correct?
Security Council agreed, yes.
Yes. Security Council also discussed that the situation would be stabilized by the use of force.
No. That was not discussed. What we discussed is that the army, the police, the NIA should go work together and ensure that they stabilize the situation. I would not say something here I never said.
Tell us how, if forces
I wouldn't know how. I'm not a security expert. They know what to do. All you do is just give, in Security Council, we gave a general direction, and it's for them to implement. I'm not going to go into operational details, to be honest. It's not it wasn't my role.
What is it that the army has that the police did not have?
They all have the same things, from what I know. The police would have guns, the army would have guns, but limited guns for the police.
Exactly.
Because they restrict them.
Exactly.
And the army would have more guns. Vehicles, the army may have some, the police, maybe the army has more.
But tell the Gambian people, very honestly, Madam Vice President, that did you or did you not expect that the army would be deployed with their guns to go and quell the situation?
Not with their guns to quell the situation. Maybe they can use other means, because they have ways of addressing riots and from what they explained to me. I told you how they explained it to me. They have ways of addressing riots and instability. But those details usually are not discussed in Security Council, to tell you the truth.
But Madam Vice President, please, you are facing the Gambian people.
I know that.
Tell the Gambian people honestly.
I'm telling you honestly what I know also.
Did you expect the army to go there and just fold their soldiers?
No, I don't expect that.
And say, situation calm down and magically everything will calm down?
No, I don't expect that. But then, their chief of defense staff, who is the head, who gives commands, who takes care of commands, maybe who knows what to tell them. Because these are operational issues, I don't know.
Seriously?
Seriously. I don't deal with operational. I've been in the Security Council for a long time, and
it looks like, Madam Vice President, this is a deliberate effort on your part to avoid responsibility for the palpable errors made by the military.
No.
You certainly do not wish to have yourself associated with the actions of the army. This is why you are saying you did not expect them to do anything.
No, the army, the police, the NIA, every one of them is family.
And your family...
I don't disown them. I don't disown civilians. I don't disown anybody. As the mother of the nation, supposedly, I don't disown anybody. Everybody is my responsibility.
But here you are. You do not want to accept.
It's not wanting to accept. I didn't know. I was not involved in those major decisions. Those are operational issues.
Well, Babukar Jatta told us what you did.
It's the word of Babukar Jatta against mine.
But the thing is, what is the more reasonable thing to accept?
No, what
that
I'm saying,
you as acting president ordered him to go and use his forces and to disperse the crowds by use of force.
I didn't do that. I didn't say that. We discussed in Security Council, they came up with strategies. We all, because I usually seek their advice.
But you all agree, pursuant to their advice, you made a decision.
Yes, collectively, yes, we did. I didn't remember
they
what it was.
They cannot advise you, and then you made a decision
No, it was not advising me. It was Security Council meeting.
But you just
we were discussing the demonstration. They told me what happened, the details of what happened, what were the other areas of concern.
You
said the whole country, we must stabilize the country, yes.
You said they advised you, didn't you say
they
that?
Advised all of, yes, okay, they came, yes, because I was the one there, yes.
They advised you, correct?
They told me things, yes. They advised me. You can call it advice.
30 seconds ago that they advised you, correct? You now accept that they advised you.
As to what to do?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and then did you accept their advice?
Well, what I said was, in Security Council, I don't reject advice. When they gave me, they are the experts. I say, okay, if this is the situation, go ahead. But I don't remember the details of...
Okay, by saying go ahead, you are in fact making a decision, correct?
Yeah, of course, as the head, yes.
And your decision is what was implemented by them, correct?
Supposedly, yes.
And they went out there and killed Gambian students in the streets.
Well, I didn't tell them to go and kill anybody.
Well, you deployed military forces with guns to go and forcibly...
I didn't deploy them with guns either. I know military have guns, but they know what strategy is used not to use guns to kill.
So, Madam Vice President, you expected that you would deploy the military on the streets to forcibly quell a student demonstration, and they just go there and laugh.
Because they told me the ways they address the riots. And they didn't tell me about killing people with live rounds or anything like that.
Madam Vice President, let's go back to your statement. They tell you first deploy the police, correct? The general police, correct?
Yeah.
And if those people fail...
They're going to work with yes, all three of them, yes.
The general police would not normally go with arms, would they?
No, they said when they were explaining to me how they do it.
Could you kindly answer the question?
The
general police would not go armed.
Generally.
They don't carry arms, generally.
The intelligence people, yes.
Yes. So the first step is deploy the general police, correct?
Intelligence, they said, to collect information.
Okay, intelligence.
That's what they told me.
Okay, then the next step is deploy general police, who are unarmed, correct?
If they cannot handle it, yes.
And if they cannot handle it, you deploy the PIU.
Yes, and then they told me that the army comes to back up the PIU if they can.
And the PIU would be carrying guns, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they have guns, I think.
Okay,
yeah.
And if they fail, then you deploy the army, correct?
No, they complement each other, but that's what they said.
Yes,
they said the army comes to complement the efforts of the rest of the security.
Exactly, but you would deploy the army, right?
That's what they said, yes.
Yes, and then the army would in fact carry more guns than the others.
It's possible.
You just said that a minute ago.
No, I said it's possible they carry more guns because they have guns.
Is it just possible, or is it in fact the case?
No, I said it depends on the situation. The army doesn't always carry guns.
So the only reason you would want to bring the army is to add more force. correct?
Well, I presume so, yes.
Exactly. And this is exactly what happened. You deployed the army, they used more force, and more people were killed.
It's possible.
Do you accept responsibility for that?
No, I said as the head of the country at the time, I accept responsibility. I'm not running away from responsibility. I said so. I said, but I'm not in charge of operations. I don't handle how the army should operate or how the police or whatever. I don't deal with those details.
But what you handle is the decision
jointly
to deploy the forces.
They advised and we jointly came up with a strategy.
Madam Vice President, this is not a joint decision. The Constitution does not say that the Army Chief of Staff would decide it. This is the President who should decide it as Commander-in-Chief.
Well, it should, and then we would have referred it to the President if that was...
The President spoke to you, and the evidence we have... The President spoke to you, correct?
He did. We were the ones who initiated.
And the evidence we have from the person who was sitting right next to him is that he says that you should go after those bastards. Take care of those bastards.
That's the President's normal language. We all know.
Exactly.
Anybody who works with him knows when he talks about it. Well, it doesn't mean you have to implement what he says.
But that is precisely what was done. These kids were chased in the streets and they were slaughtered.
Because, remember, the President didn't speak only to me, he spoke to others. But what he told others, I don't know, but what he told me is what I'm telling you.
You don't remember what he told you?
No, he said, I explained to him, he said, where is the, after I explained all those details, he said, who else do you have, where are the people in your office, who else? I told him the CDS was here, and then I can't remember the others, but there were others, definitely. I didn't, maybe Minister of Interior, those who were in my office at the time.
But you
then he spoke to them as well.
You said you do not remember what order.
All the details. No. When you said that aspect that you said somebody reported or Lalo or somebody reported to you, I said I don't remember that phrase he used, but I said I would not be surprised that he uses such a phrase.
What I am driving at is you spoke to the President and got his instructions.
No, not instruction. He listened to me and then he spoke to the rest of the people sitting there. So maybe he thought we were on the right track after we explained all that destruction, everything, and the other services also spoke to him. So he had a better view of what happened in his absence.
And he told you what he wanted?
I don't remember him telling me beyond this. But you, as I said, he said he said those words. I said I'm not surprised if he said that. But generally, I'm not the type who would go and implement anything that President Jammeh says. Because sometimes he says certain things.
Are you serious?
That it's true. Because the statements like this, he just says them.
Let me ask my question.
Yes. This is not a directive.
Did you last in government under Jammeh for 20 years by defying his decisions?
Especially these kinds of talk? No.
No. The question is, did you last in Jammeh's government for 20 years by defying his decisions?
Especially this type, yes. I defied those. There are times when we argue with the President and we disagree as well.
You want us to believe? Madam
you don't have to believe, but ask people who...
I would bring it to the Commission later. If you look at the videos of Jammeh's speeches where you were present, for 20 years, all you would be doing would be like this.
It depends on what he says. He wouldn't say, kill somebody and I do this, or I'll put you 6 feet deep and I do this, no.
Well, he was saying those things, didn't he?
But I'm saying when I note, it's not really...
He was saying those things. I will put them 6 feet deep.
We will listen to his speech.
Did you agree?
We are not nodding throughout, remember.
But did you agree with him about that, putting people 6 feet deep?
No, we don't agree.
But you did not resign your job.
No, we didn't.
You stayed on throughout.
Yes.
Effectively acquiescing his style of government.
Well, we tried to make changes from within. We tried to discuss with him where we can. But the President,
isn't that an excuse?
The President is not somebody you sit with all day and just go to his office and talk to him and advise him. It's always in a cabinet setting or in a program setting.
Let us move.
Yes.
The statement was written.
Yes.
And the statement was false.
Well, what I found later, when they said shooting came from the crowd, and then the coroner's inquest came and showed that those who died were killed by gunshot wounds, then I knew, of course, that was not true. Because I challenged them on the statement, mark you. Before, when you tell me something I'm not too sure of, I go and say, are you sure? They said, we are sure. Are you sure? They said, we are sure.
And we received that evidence.
No, I don't know.
That there was discussion in your office as to whether that statement was true or false.
No, I remember, definitely I asked them.
Exactly. But it was known at that stage that that statement was false.
But I didn't know. Because I was not on the ground.
The evidence we have is different.
I'm saying the evidence we have, but at that time I didn't know it was false.
Well, Babukar Jata said here.
He said it was false?
That, yes, that statement was false.
And why didn't he tell me?
He said at your office it was discussed that that was not true, but some believed it was true.
No.
Okay.
When I challenged them, they said it was true. And that's why I read it. I would not have read it.
I received a statement from somebody who worked in your office who said that Njie directed you to read this statement as it was, including that false language.
Yes, that's why I said I don't remember the details, but I think I would hardly read the president's statement that was not approved and sent to him by the office of the president.
So therefore, you read the statement because Njie told you to do so.
Because it was his statement, yes.
Exactly, and
yes.
you read...
But I didn't read it because it was false, no.
No, you read what Njie told you. And you knew at that point that that was false.
Because I kept on telling them, this thing, I'm not comfortable with this shooting coming from the crowd. Was there any shooting? And what shooting came from the crowd?
Madam Vice President, the honorable thing you should have done...
But the final thing...
Just a moment, let me finish. You knew at that point that that statement was false.
When did I know? You said when?
During those discussions, when Njie had to intervene to say that you must read this statement as it was.
But I didn't know Njie intervened. That's why I'm saying these things can happen in the background. Maybe protocol knew because he was going to the ministry where the statement is being drawn. They only bring me the statement. But I told you, generally, the president's statement, the president of it will not give it to me, finalized without him seeing it. I know that. But I wasn't sure that he saw it.
The evidence we have
I wasn't sure.
Is that you protested the inclusion of that language
I did,
in the statement.
because I wasn't sure that shooting came from the crowd. There was shooting. I said, how come there was shooting and it came from the crowd? Because it disturbed me a lot. Because the first draft I read, it wasn't there. It suddenly appeared. So that's why I asked them.
Yes,
but they said, the security said, no, it's true.
But that same information, that same witness told us that Njie insisted that you read the statement as it is.
Njie didn't talk to me. So how did he get the message? I don't know.
Well,
we only spoke to the president once. The president is not easy to access. We spoke to him once.
Well,
so maybe president office spoke to him and he said that it's possible. I wouldn't say
but
no.
When you read that statement, Madam Vice President, you knew that statement was false.
No, when I read it, I didn't know. To be honest, it's only when I saw the coroner's inquest, because when they tell me that shooting came and it came from the crowd, and I argued with them and they still said it was true, well, I said, so be it. You are the experts on the ground. So I read exactly what they told me it was.
Okay. When you subsequently discovered, as you say, that the statement was false, what did you do?
No. When I discovered, that was after the coroner's inquest, then they said the 14 all died. After they interviewed people, I think, either those who killed or whatever, they said those who died of gunshot wounds. And that's when I looked back and said, so they died of gunshot wounds. That means who has guns? But when they said there were arms in the crowd as well, that the crowd was armed, because they did mention that there were armed groups in the crowd. So who shot? It's either the armed groups plus the security or who? But if it is only students that were killed and no other person in the crowd, then I came to the conclusion that it was the army or the security.
You concluded that the statement you fed the Gambian people was false.
I knew after, yes.
What did you do about that?
About shooting from the crowd, yes.
What did you do about that?
Well, it was fait accompli. What do I do about that? It already happened. A coroner's inquest was done, and they have proven that indeed the shooting was done by the security.
But didn't you see that you have participated in grossly misleading the Gambian population?
Without unknowingly, yes.
Now that you have known about it, that your government, the one you serve as vice president, has grossly misled the Gambian population, what did you do about it?
I didn't do anything at that time.
Don't you think that you are morally and legally obliged to go out and correct that misstatement you have fed the people?
No, I cannot, because my responsibility now ended when President Njie came and took over. If I have to go and do that, I'll seek clearance from him.
Did you seek clearance from him?
No, I didn't.
Didn't you even deem it necessary that you should resign your job for having so badly misled the Gambian people on such an important matter?
I didn't, to be honest.
Now let's move on to the indemnity. You were there when it was decided that all those who committed these major crimes would be forgiven.
Yeah.
Would not be proceeded.
What I wasn't sure about, who came with that decision? Was it the commission that decided it, or was it the president, or who?
But did you care to find out?
No, I didn't find out, but I heard it, yes.
So you were not interested in the matter, were you?
No, being interested doesn't mean finding out, not finding out. It was already there. It was a presidential decision, so it was. So
now it was a presidential decision. You just told us you didn't know.
Thing. Huh?
You just told us you didn't know.
No, I said, because the commission. I say it's either commission or presidential. But now
I'm
telling you that
presidential.
If there was because the president, I think, said for the sake of peace and stability, I did hear him say that it's better to forgive perpetrators on both the side of the students and the side of the security. He said that.
But wasn't that also a lie?
I don't know. That's what he said.
You are vice president. You should know whether that was true or whether that was false.
Well, he didn't forgive them. Okay.
No, what I am saying is there was nothing to forgive about the students. They were exercising their constitutionally guaranteed right to peaceably assemble and demonstrate.
Yeah, but this is what I heard, that there were perpetrators on the student side, according to the conclusion of that. I don't know whether it was the commission that concluded or it was the government.
But in your view as vice president, was it right that the forces that you deployed, who went out there and slaughtered students, was it right that they are granted indemnity?
It wasn't right, but what I heard the president say is for the sake of peace, that both perpetrators among the students and the security would be forgiven. That's what he said.
Did you do anything about that?
No, I think that was it. Yeah, I didn't.
It was just convenience to go along as if nothing happened.
No, it was not as if nothing happened, but at least a commission concludes, a commission comes up with recommendations, and government is supposed to implement that. And that's where I stopped.
Yes, and government did not implement anything. In fact, government put it under the carpet.
Maybe government implemented
and clothed it with immunity with this indemnity act.
That's what I said. They said they indemnified.
And that was wrong, wasn't it?
Well, they did indemnify.
In fact, this was all part of a government cover-up to cover up your actions and the actions of Yaya Jammeh, the two of you who gave the military the authority to go out there and slaughter the students.
I don't agree.
Well, you were indemnified, weren't you?
No, I was not mentioned in that commission. I was not even called by the commission.
The Indemnity Act did not talk about those who were found culpable by the report of the commission. It talked about all those who carried out functions or did certain actions which are criminal.
Maybe it did.
So it covered your responsibility for the actions of the military that you deployed. And that is why you wouldn't go ahead and challenge the lawfulness of that Indemnity Act.
Even if I was not involved in that, I don't think when a commission decides and the president came up with a final decision that I would go and challenge it. No.
Well, you told me, Madam Vice President.
I only challenge on certain things, but not that.
You just told us that it was wrong to have passed that Indemnity Act. You just told us
I said when I learned that it was the coroner's inquest when I learned, I then knew that indeed the killing was done by security forces and not the students or I don't know, rogue elements in the crowd could have done it, but I didn't know. I wasn't on the ground. I cannot go and guess.
We know you are not on the ground. You were vice president of our country, we wouldn't let you go on the ground on such things. But you sent forces on the ground. And you know, you've said here, that by granting them immunity, it was wrong. You said that, didn't you?
No, if they are the ones that kill, obviously it was wrong. Anybody who kills to be granted. But they granted immunity to both the students, they told me, and the security forces.
But, Madam Vice President,
this, what I'm told is what I'm telling you.
Our public officials are expected to have conscience and guided by morality. Isn't that the case?
Should.
Did you resign as a result of that?
That's what I said.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't resign as a result of all the terrible things that Njie did over 20 years in which you worked with him.
The ones I knew, yeah.
Let's now go to that. But before we do, let's just sum up the issue of April 10th and 11th. You issued a statement that was false, correct?
Well, now when I learned later, yes, it's no, there was no shooting coming from...
Well, our case is that you knew it was false.
No, I didn't know at the beginning, to be
Your
honest.
case is that you did not know then. But when you even later realized that it was false, you did not do anything about it.
Yeah,
so by continuing to be quiet about it, you were in fact perpetuating that falsehood you fed to the Gambian people.
Well, I leave it to the commission, whatever you believe.
No, what do you say to that? You did something, you knew it was false. You had every chance to go out and correct it.
I cannot.
You had every chance to dissociate yourself from it by resigning. You did neither.
I didn't.
So by leaving it like that, by leaving it out there, you are in fact reinforcing or perpetuating that falsehood.
Yeah, that's so I'm not going. As I said, I'm not here to argue. I'm just here.
But you have a right to agree or disagree.
No, I don't lend in this.
All right, let's leave it at that. At the Security Council, you made a decision.
Yes, the council, yes.
To deploy forces.
Well, it's not only for. We said the security must ensure their stability. When you asked me what would police do, what would the army do, I said generally the army has security forces. Okay. They have soldiers. Police has.
Pursuant to your decision, the army deployed, the police deployed, and they killed students.
And which was not the decision to go and kill anybody.
Well, your decision was that they must use force.
No, it wasn't decided that they must use force either in the Security Council.
Well, they said you decided that they must use force.
Yeah, I didn't say.
Well, you do not say
using force or deploying. Because the Security Council agreed on deployment, not using force. Well, let's not put words into my mouth. I never said that.
You, at that time, you said you believed these people had guns.
Yes, but I didn't say using force.
Yes, they were politically motivated.
That's what they told me.
Yes,
it was all said in the meeting.
They were setting offices on fire. They were vandalizing places. And you deployed the army just to go and fold their arms.
I didn't say that either.
But then they must have been deployed to use force.
Sometimes you don't have to use force. To quell, you said quell. You are the ones who came up with the word quell.
Okay.
But it was just to make sure that in case there is a potential demonstrator, they see how they can address it.
Okay.
And remember, I told you I didn't even stop there. I rang even some people I could up country to say, can you dialogue with the communities?
Hear the question. Hear the question. At this stage, when all that violence was ongoing, they had only two choices. One is to use force or not to use force.
If there is violence.
Yes. And there was violence.
Yes. If there is violence up country as well as around here.
Because the non-use of force was definitely ineffective. Wasn't it?
Well, I'm not a soldier, but I think so.
Exactly, because that is palpably obvious.
It's not the force, but you at least try to stop it. I don't know how they do it. That's an operational matter.
I think you are
I don't go into those details of operation, but the soldiers know what to do, perhaps. The CDS is a mature somebody.
With all due respect,
the IGP is, and so are the others, yes.
With all due respect, Madam Vice President, you are running away from the obvious.
No, it's not.
Which is
it's my limitation when it comes to security, to be honest.
But is it your limitation that you do not know that it was only force that could have stopped that demonstration?
No. It doesn't have to be force. If that was the last resort, maybe. But there were other things they should have deployed.
But you all arrived at that conclusion.
That they should use force?
Yes.
No, I didn't.
You did not.
We didn't remember that.
So when you ordered
honest.
Babukar Jatta to go, you expected that they would just go there and just smile at the students and then the violence
I never said
would
that
end.
either. I never said that. If they deploy, it depends on how they handle the deployment. If it is malhandled, mismanaged, yes, then there will be crisis.
The point I am trying to drive at is, you tell us really what you expected them to do.
Is to ensure that normalcy comes back. I didn't know what was happening on the ground.
How were they to do that?
I didn't know what was happening, what the situation was on the ground in detail. So I just said, let normalcy come. We all agree that there should be normalcy on the ground.
I put it to you, Madam Vice President, that you are avoiding the very obvious, which is you deployed these forces on the ground knowing fully well that they were going to use force and that was going to result in casualties.
I didn't know fully well, to be honest.
The Commission would make up its mind as to whether by deploying the military, you intended that forces would be used or not. Force would be used or not.
Okay.
We've heard Babukar Jatta said that force was expected to be used.
Okay.
And that is why they deployed with live ammunition.
He's a security man. So he knows what should be used. But for me, the way they explained that demonstration on that day, I told you everything, how they do it.
All right. And Madam Vice President, in fact, your approach to this particular issue is not novel at all. It is the same approach you have taken to everything, all the terrible things that Jammeh has done in this country for 20 years.
But if I don't know, how would I get in, say? I don't have to say things I don't know.
But let us find out whether you knew or you
There are things I know, there are things I don't know.
But you knew definitely that there was an attack on the media in this country.
Well, yes, I know that media-government relationship, especially the president and the media, wasn't good. Yes, I knew that. And
you knew that media houses were being attacked and burnt?
After it happened, yes.
You knew that journalists were being unlawfully arrested and detained?
I think we read.
And you knew some of them were being even targeted for assassination?
I didn't know. No, I wouldn't.
Well, you knew that Haidara was killed?
I know he died, but on the mysterious, we didn't know how.
It wasn't so mysterious, Madam Vice President.
No, what I'm saying, I knew.
It wasn't so mysterious. Everybody in this country... No, but later,
it's only this commission that brought it out. What I'm saying at that time.
But that is in fact not the case, Madam Vice President. Yeah. Participants in that offense went out in the public to explain that it was the junglers who killed him on the instructions of Yahya Jammeh.
Maybe they did.
This is public knowledge, isn't it?
It's possible.
Yes. And in fact, before all that, Yahya Jammeh attacked all the politicians who were opposed to him, didn't he?
I don't remember. Attacked.
The PPP were attacked, O.J. Jallow and others were all unlawfully arrested and detained, correct?
During the?
O.J. Jallow, MC Cham,
when was that?
Ousseynou Dabo, in 1996. 95, 96, they were all arrested.
But I wasn't in government by 95, but
96 you were in government.
I heard some of them who were, and I was there, and I even visited some. Yes.
Yes, they were arrested and detained.
Who?
They were arrested and detained.
Yes,
you visited some of them.
Even the commission said it here.
And that was unlawful, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
Exactly. And not only that, not only the attack on politicians, not only the attack on the media, not only the assassination of media personalities, but there were wholesale arrests and detentions of people who were simply opposed to the government. Isn't that the case?
It's possible, yes. I don't know the degree, but definitely some arrests would have happened, yes.
But Madam Vice President, this is not about you did not know.
No, I don't. Those details, I would only hear about arrests and things. It's hearing. Since I don't take part in those.
How do you come to know things? You
because
only have
sometimes
to hear about them.
as I said, me is house to office. Sometimes we'll be sitting in cabinet and things are said. Sometimes it would be if I have time to listen to the news. Sometimes it's the newspaper if I have time, if we are allowed to read
Madam Vice President, there were lots of human rights reports about Gambia.
Yes, I knew about that one.
And you read
and I even
reports.
Not only read, but I met some people.
Exactly. And all those reports were replete with information about unlawful dismissals, correct?
I got some of those letters even directly to me, sent to other ministers, sent to the president, and I always forward my letters to the office of the president or the ministry that was mentioned.
In fact, hundreds of civil servants were dismissed from their jobs simply because they would not kowtow with Jammeh.
Dismissals, I'm aware, yes.
Right?
Definitely.
And these are, in fact, people who are the nation's greatest resource.
I know.
And they were dismissed unlawfully from their jobs.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes, that one I know, definitely.
And then come November 11, the attack against the students. Correct?
November.
April 10th, sorry.
April 10th, yes.
And even before that, in November 11 of 1994, you were not yet in government, Jammeh unlawfully executed soldiers.
I knew that during the commission, yes, the details.
But that is a fact that it happened in this country, isn't it?
It happened because when the commission revealed it, I heard about it, yes.
So by that act, Jammeh silenced the military, didn't he? Partially?
That one, 90.
He caused fear in the military.
95.
Yes, he caused fear in the military, didn't he?
I'm sure.
He also caused fear in the politicians.
Yeah,
through his unlawful arrest and detention.
Of course, yeah.
He also caused fear in the media.
Yes, because
through their arrest and detention and their assassination.
Yes, I know.
Even some in the military who are getting senior were falsely accused of coup d'etats, arrested and falsely prosecuted.
I know people were accused, yes, I heard about it.
A lot of them were acquitted by the courts.
Okay, yeah.
In fact, today we heard about Lalo Jaite, who was also acquitted by the courts, boldly. In fact, you presided over a judiciary which was called a mercenary judiciary, which was there to rubber stamp Jammeh's decision. Isn't that not true, Madam Vice President?
Well, the government did. If say you, I mean, sometimes I don't know what the judiciary does.
No, but Madam,
so, but I'm part of the government, yes.
You were the Vice President.
A Vice President, but sometimes I don't know things that are happening under my nose. I can tell.
But not only that, Jammeh put in place a killer machine that was going about executing his political opponents.
Which killer machine maybe? I don't know.
Everybody in this country heard about the junglers, didn't you?
Yeah, the junglers after we heard about it, but not
after, Madam Vice President. Junglers, we had them during the life of their operations.
No.
Everybody in this country knew.
I gave you an example. I said if I knew certain people that were sent to me for cover, plus security cover were junglers, I would be fair. I was just cringing when I heard about their testimonies here.
Well, maybe you were also targeted to find out whether your loyalty subsisted.
I don't know, but they were there. They were posted.
Who knows? Maybe if you...
I wouldn't know, but I was definitely worried when I learned that some of the people who were sent to me through General Baji to change my security were also junglers. I really got worried.
You were worried?
Yes, because I said I didn't know that these good people would be killing.
But so were we for 20 years.
Yeah, okay, for you for 20 years, but I didn't know, to tell you the truth.
You were too close to
I wouldn't know that these people are, and then they are posted to me, and I'm not comfortable.
Everybody in Gambia knew that there was a hit squad called Junglers, and they were killing for the president.
You are saying everybody knew, but there are people who didn't.
Are you telling us you did not know?
I didn't know the jungler issue. It only came during this commission that I had those details, because some of the I told you were posted.
But with all due respect, I beg to differ. The jungler issue was in the public domain and people knew about it.
And I respect you differing, but I'm saying what I know is what I have to say here. I cannot say something
What would you have done if you had known that the jungler issue is true?
I don't know, that they kill people. I think we would have discussed it maybe at a level, I don't know. Because we never have the opinion to have one-to-one discussion with the president. Then we would have raised it maybe in Security Council, possibly.
Did you discuss,
and then minuted to him maybe.
Did you discuss the execution, the assassination of veteran journalist Deida Haidara?
No, I think I met the group. They came to my office. I remember.
Did you discuss it at Security Council?
Well, yes, because when the people meet me on anything to do with security, if I meet these people, I invite the security to be there.
What I mean is, did you discuss it with the president?
Yes, I said these people came with we didn't know, the journey, I don't know, the death of data found us, I think people were deployed for Darfur or somewhere. We were at the stadium. That's where the news reached us. And I even went to tell the president because I didn't know he knew. I and I think the Minister of Justice or something like that, at that time, Hydra, we went to talk to him. We said, there's a serious thing happening in the country. They said, Data Hydra is dead. They didn't tell us how he died at the time. We were at the stadium.
Before the death of Data Hydra, has there ever been any such event in Gambian history?
What event?
Such military-style execution. Has it ever happened in Gambian history?
Before Data? Maybe not. I'm not aware, no. Nobody
is aware. That would be the first. And quickly, it went all around this country that it was the government that did it. It was the military that did it. True or false?
Maybe, yeah. I was concerned because I knew him, yes.
But you were so concerned as not to resign your job.
No, I didn't resign.
You did not mind to be associated with a government that was killing its citizens.
No, at the time, to be honest, I didn't know that government killed anybody. Otherwise, I would not have gone to tell the president.
Well, the numbers continued to mount. From Data Hydra, you have Dawda Nyasi.
I don't know Dawda Nyasi.
Well, even the Jame brothers, Haruna Jame. It's all right.
All is because of this commission that I knew about.
But no, Madam Vice President, I still beg to differ. This information was all in the public domain that the government which you served as Vice President was busy executing extrajudicially its own citizens. Well, it's just the amnesty reports that they bring to me that are written saying there are, and I always call security and ask them if I have them, at least at my level. There is this amnesty report covering 20 years of Jame atrocities from 1994 to 2016. Did you see it? How did you feel when you saw it?
Some of the things I never knew were happening under our nose, definitely, to be honest.
Were you horrified by it?
Of course. Anything to do with human rights.
But this issue, this report, came out before the Jame government fell. Did you resign your job?
No, I didn't see it.
You didn't?
Before the Jame government, 2016?
Now you did not see it.
You are saying 2016 or 2017?
You saw it before, now you're telling us you didn't
No, what I'm saying, I usually see Amnesty writing, when they write to all of us about concerns. That I know. They write to us about their concerns. They always write to us about their concerns.
All right. Now, but would you have done something if you had seen these reports?
I usually call the security meeting first. That's what I do. And if the amnesty visits, since they don't see the president, they visit. I will always give them access.
Okay. Let me say. Here we have a 2009 Human Rights Watch report, right? It talks about the things that were happening in Gambia. Arbitrary or unlawful deprivation of life. And it lists events, right? It talks about prison and detention centers with terrible conditions.
Yeah, and they talked about that. They came to me and they even raised it.
Significantly, it talks about enforced disappearances.
I had a lot of that, but I didn't establish it, yeah.
And this is 2009, and it lists a list of other human rights violations, all right? And I can assure you, Madam Vice President, I don't want to unnecessarily prolong this. Year in, year out, human rights organizations castigate Gambia and produce one of the worst human rights records in modern history.
I know that because the ministries of justice generally, they are supposed to go and report on these things in Geneva. And usually when we meet them in cabinet, they raise some of those issues, yes.
So you knew that the government you were serving was one of the worst governments in Africa in terms of its human rights record. You knew that.
We had human rights concerns, definitely.
But you knew that people were disappeared in your country.
No. I mean, we only read about these things or hear later, or somebody mentions it. But to be honest, some of the things I didn't even know.
But how else do you expect to know about
them? So when I know it through that way, how do I know what is established?
But Madam Vice President, you continue to be associated with a government as its #2 person which was disappearing its citizens.
But we didn't jointly take the decision for anybody to disappear or anybody to be violated.
But
I was in the government, I accept.
The problem is that you knew.
I accept responsibility that I'm in the government, but I will not accept responsibility that I directed any of those, definitely.
This is in fact a question of your morality.
No, it's a moral issue, okay?
It's also a question of how seriously you took your responsibility as vice president of the country.
Maybe that's your opinion, yeah.
No, you are supposed to be a mother of this country.
Well, that's what I thought I was, but maybe I'm not. Yeah.
But you were a mother who sat there and saw your children being disappeared. You said nothing.
I didn't know about disappearances, to be honest.
Well, here are the reports.
That's what I'm saying. It's the report.
But lots of them.
It's a report that you verify. The reports came. I invited Security Council. And if it relates to a sector, I invite the sector and we discuss, and they tell me no.
And
if they tell me it's not...
And you do nothing.
What can I do?
And these reports were happening from 1996 to 2017.
I know, yeah.
You still kept quiet.
Some reports definitely I saw, others I didn't.
In fact, there is this report we have here, a report by the committee on the Committee to Protect Journalists. And this is what is contained in the report. You are confronted about the rights violations in Gambia. And it says here, and I quote, "In a discussion with Njie Saidy after the event, I mentioned to her that an internet search of the Gambia yields many results about human rights abuses. In response, she shifted the topic to the United States. Do they tell you, quote, do they tell you about Guantanamo Bay? Seems like a human rights issue, she said. And you know in the internet you have a lot of garbage. Don't believe everything you read.
And that's true.
You have to look in between. She later accused social media of peddling untruths. Social media is the problem. Madam Vice Chair, Vice President, social media was not the problem. The problem was your government that was busy killing and disappearing its citizens.
When these people meet me, they meet me with security. I don't talk to them alone. I don't know how that meeting happened, but usually it's me and the rest of the people I invite. If it relates to justice, I invite justice. If it relates, and then when they raise the issues, I would have consulted. And when I consulted, especially with social media, of course, sometimes there are false stories.
Do you dispute making this statement in New York?
In New York? In the global meeting?
Do you dispute making this statement?
I made many statements, so I don't remember. In a global meeting.
Did you dispute?
Was it a global meeting?
It was an African tourism promotion event in New York.
Maybe they interviewed me or something.
It was in September of 2011.
It was an interview.
So you see, you were giving an excuse for the government for the blatant violation of the rights of Gambians.
No, but when I said sometimes social media also does it, some stories are true, some stories are not, the internet also. Yeah, I mean, that was true. Some stories may not be true.
In fact,
and some maybe.
In fact, you were asked about Chief Ibrahima Mane. And you said that the government didn't arrest him. People are making up stories.
The government said they didn't arrest him because I asked. That was the information I got.
Well,
they said they didn't. Security said they didn't arrest him. They didn't know where he was because we met a human rights organization where we answered the question. Yes.
And you suggested that the journalist may have gone missing while attempting to emigrate to Europe. He was going on back way and
Security said that, yes.
But
they told me that because these days there is this back way thing. Remember, I don't say anything without checking with security and whoever else is concerned.
Yes,
but in this instance, it was a security issue, the chief money issue, because it kept on coming up.
Madam
and the human rights organizations kept on writing. And I asked security, I said, can we check on this? How did this happen? They said, no, they are not aware. Then later they told me, I think when there's one human rights organization visited my office, I called the security, and what they told me was, well, at one time they arrested him, he was in Baka, they kept on explaining to me, he was in Bundung, and later they couldn't find him, they heard he was in, I think they said they had he was in America even.
Madam Vice President.
They told me that. Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, you are simply towing the government line, knowing fully well that this was false.
I didn't know it was false. I was finding out. Honestly, this was what I believe was true.
Okay, let's move on.
I cannot say.
Let us move on. But the false presidential treatment program for AIDS.
I was not part of that. How would I know it's false or true? I'm not a doctor.
But wasn't it patently obvious to everybody that this was false?
Why didn't Gambians say it? Gambians usually come out themselves and say we are treated. And you see, Gambians should be part of the problem also.
But those who claim to have been treated were dying before our very eyes.
Well, they claimed it. I don't know who died or who lived. I was not part of that treatment program. You only attend ceremonies. When he does his treatment program, we are not there.
Look at the Gambian people in the eyes, look at us, and tell us that you seriously believed that Jammeh was curing AIDS.
That's what people said.
No. The question is...
What about if the medical people themselves said, and that's what he said? I'm not a medical expert. So I'm not going to hold brief for Jammeh.
Hold a second.
But that's what they said, and the people who were treated also said it. So who am I to say otherwise?
Listen to the question.
Yes.
Did you seriously believe that Jammeh was curing AIDS?
I didn't know, but that was what he said, and that was what the people he cured said.
You have an
and that
answer?
Was what the medical people also said.
Do you have an answer?
I don't have an answer because I don't know.
Because such a belief would be a fanciful idea, and you know it.
No, I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't want to go into detail things I don't know.
But tell us
I don't want to be committed to things I don't know.
But tell us whether you believe or did not believe.
Well, if he said he comes from a family of doctors, that's what he told us. He said he comes from a family of traditional doctors and he heals. So HIV/AIDS, for what I knew, there was no cure, at least when I knew.
So when he said he was curing it... But he himself said he found the cure. When he said he was curing it, did you believe him?
I don't have to believe or disbelieve. As I said, I only attended the ceremonies, and he showed us how their, I don't know, viral loads or something went down. He says it in public. All Gambians have heard it, not only me.
Answer the question, did you believe him?
Everybody would have believed because you thought he was curing. I am not talking
about the would.
The belief was based on what the patient said, what the doctor said, and what he said.
I did not believe.
Yeah, okay, maybe you are more intelligent than we are. I don't know.
Did you believe?
I think we didn't disbelieve, definitely, because I'm not a doctor. We didn't disbelieve.
So you believe?
Because the patients themselves said it.
So you believe?
Those who went through, I don't know, fertility programs themselves said it. We only attend the ceremonies.
So you believed?
We would believe because we didn't see anybody dispute.
But didn't the UN dispute it?
The doctors did not dispute. Nobody disputed.
Didn't the UN dispute it?
Huh?
Didn't the UN
Maybe they did. I'm not aware.
But you were vice president of the country.
Even if I'm vice president, how would I be aware?
So you were...
UN never wrote to me, they never came to me.
Wasn't the UN resident representative declared persona non grata in this country?
Who was the UN representative? I don't remember but a lot of people were declared persona non grata, so I don't know the UN.
Anybody who opposed Jammeh
I don't know, because some ambassadors were also, we only hear it.
But we are talking about the UN resident representative.
I don't know who he was at the time. I can't remember.
Who she was at the time.
Okay, it's a she.
But how come, Madam Vice President?
No, it's possible. But I'm saying people were declared not persona. But I wouldn't say it's because of HIV/AIDS or anything. People are declared persona non grata in this country.
Let us not speak over each other.
Yeah.
We have to listen to one another. Do you want to seriously tell us that you did not know that the UN resident representative was declared persona non grata?
I wouldn't say I didn't know. I said a lot of people were. Maybe I knew about it.
Did you know or did you not know?
It's possible I knew. I'm saying look, my plate is so full that some things I would know. And it's possible that I knew, definitely. I cannot remember who she was or the person you are talking about.
I take that to mean a refusal to answer the question.
Remind me who it was.
You either know or you did not know.
No, I mean, there are so many persona non grata. How would I remember which one it was, honestly?
But for the UN?
Even for the UN.
But did you know?
But I know that some ambassadors, some
But did you know that some diplomat was declared persona non grata because she protested Jammeh's HIV/AIDS?
It's possible. As I said, it's possible, but it's been a long time. It's possible. It's possible. It's not a long time. But again, I don't want to say something I don't know. But I know that people were declared persona non grata. It's possible. If you tell me the name, I would remember. Oh yeah. I don't know.
Now, how about the witch hunting exercise?
What witch hunting?
The Jammeh witch hunting exercise. That one you didn't know also?
What witch hunting? Tell me what you mean by witch hunting people. Witch hunting people?
Didn't Jammeh deploy a group of supposed witch hunters escorted by the military who went around the country falsely accusing people as witches, forcing them to drink concoctions and even imprisoning certain people they believed to have been witches?
I only knew that afterwards, but I didn't know when it started or whatever, but I heard about it after.
In which country did you live?
But I didn't hear the issue of security forces which involved in witch hunting.
In which country did you live, Madam Vice President?
Right here in the Gambia, right here.
Yet you did not know about it?
No, afterwards I heard this. You know, these things you hear in the grapevine. Let me tell you, with me, how would I know when I'm from house to office, office to house? How would I know about what people say out there unless I read it in a newspaper or I listen to radio or somebody comes and tells me?
But it was also in the radios.
It's possible. It's possible.
But let me ask you, from a moral and legal standpoint, do you think that it is fair for one person, say Mr. Esa Fall, to get up and look at this guy? He is such a serer, he looks so ugly. I say, well, this guy is a witch.
No, it's not fair.
Is it unfair?
It's unfair, although we do it in our local. We do it locally, but it's not fair.
But this is government doing it.
I know. It's not our business to be involved in that.
And not only that, the person is immediately judged and sentenced to punishment. This person must drink a particular concoction. Is that fair?
It's not fair, but I didn't know.
Is it fair that people are beaten because they are believed to be witches?
It's not fair.
Is it fair that people are imprisoned because they are believed to be witches?
No.
Well, you served that government which was doing it.
I served.
And you did not do anything about it.
But I didn't know. What I'm saying, I only heard about this after. You see, you hear these things in the grapevine. But you are not involved in it. You are not consulted on it. You don't know about it. Maybe it's other. Sometimes Gambians who know things that sometimes people in government sometimes are the last to know.
Okay, I would proceed.
Definitely, I wouldn't commit myself to something I didn't.
I would proceed, Madam Vice President. And there was the NIA.
Yes.
Which drove fear in the hearts of all Gambians. Those at home and those abroad. True or false?
Yeah, because people always talk about NIA, yes.
Did you know about this?
Well, they do investigations, I knew, yes. That they arrest people, I think I would know they arrest, because the Amnesty and other people came to my office at one time. I invited the Director General, and that was the issue.
Do you know that the NIA was the star chamber of the Gambia, specialist in torture?
Well, people complain about that, yes.
And you knew that?
They complained about it.
Did you resign your job?
People who went in there and came out.
Did you resign your job because you did not wish to be associated with a government that tortured its citizens?
I didn't.
After all is said and done, Madam Vice President, let me read out the human rights record of Jammeh. A government that attacked, unlawfully arrested, detained and tortured political opponents. That's true, isn't it? Say yes or no?
Yes, I told you before.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. A government that attacked the media, burned media houses, arrested journalists and falsely imprisoned
I heard that also, yes.
That is
and
correct.
That means it's true. Yeah.
That is correct, right?
Yeah.
A government that unlawfully arrests and detained its citizens, correct?
Yes, I heard that also.
A government that would unlawfully sack its civil servants simply because they oppose Jammeh, correct?
Well, sometimes we don't even know the reasons of sacking, but I presume that is because they oppose him. Because in these letters, they don't even explain why.
Was that fair, Madam
No,
Vice
it's not,
President?
but that's what I
And that was the system.
Because I knew, because sometimes letters from the office would be brought to my office by the Secretary General or Secretary to Cabinet or a senior officer there to say that the President has sent directives, through my protocols, of course, that has sent directives that so and so should be given this letter. Sometimes my heart pumps because I'm not sure whether the letter is for deployment or is for dismissal. But most of the time it's dismissals.
It was a terrible situation.
Yes, those were ministers. But all civil servants were sent to PMO from what I learned.
In fact, your own protocol officer was also arrested in this same manner. And
yes, he took me to the house. And as he was coming out, from what I learned from him, he was arrested by the NIA. They followed him to my house. I didn't know. Because it was a convoy, you don't know.
And you did nothing?
What could I do? I went and saw what I can do with the family and help them and all that. That's what I did. I asked about him.
And beyond that, you did nothing?
I cannot
just
do much.
Say yes
even my own, I didn't know nothing because even my own permanent secretaries are sometimes dismissed or changed.
Okay. And that
my security are removed from me and others are brought.
Okay. And that same government, I'm still reading the human rights record, would attack its own students and brutally slaughter them in the streets.
Well, it would, but that's what happened in April 10th and 11th. Finally, people were killed, yes.
Exactly. And then lots of military officers were falsely accused of coup d'etat.
Yes, I heard about coup d'etats only after they happened, yes.
And then a jungular hit squad who would kill anybody
after I learned
who
about
was opposed to Jammeh.
Yeah.
And of course, the presidential treatment program, you definitely did not believe he was curing AIDS.
That was a difficult one for me.
Yeah.
Because it's the patients themselves who say these things and the doctors. So I'm not a doctor. I didn't go through the treatment yet.
I think every intelligent human being who observed what was happening in Gambia knew fully well that this was a hoax.
It's possible.
In fact, one of the medical doctors who was involved in the program testified before the commission and said it was a hoax.
Okay, then he should have.
There was no scientific.
They should have advised us because they said it was scientific. They said the viral loads went down. It was tested here and there. They told us in these gatherings. I didn't know. It was said in the gatherings. So, belief or disbelief, I don't know.
Even the infertility program,
yes,
that too was false.
Well, they said they brought children. You see, it's Gambians. As I say, as much as one may blame Jammeh, one may also blame Gambia. If Gambians come and say, yes, as a result of your treatment, my wife has a child, they even sent some people to my office thanking the president.
Did you really believe this?
That's what they said.
Madam
Who am I to disbelieve or believe?
In fact, you pronounce yourself on this matter.
I'm not here to believe or disbelieve. Because he said it.
So you were just here to go along. Whatever
he said it and they said it. The person said it and he said it.
Listen to the question. It didn't matter what they said. As far as you were concerned, you just went along. For as long as you were vice president, you would just go along.
I think it's unfair to say that. But anyway, I leave you to think that, yes.
But did you do anything to make us believe otherwise?
How would I know that it's a false thing?
You could have resigned your job.
How would I know it's false or it's true?
But you could have resigned your job, Madam Vice President, in view of all these human rights violations.
Well, I didn't. I admit I was there until 2016, yes.
You chose to go along, regardless of
some of the things you didn't know, some of the things you knew later, and so on. It really is unfair to put it on anybody's head.
But when you knew, you still did not resign.
No. In knowing some of the things I clearly told you I didn't know, and you want me to believe that I knew. Some of the things I said maybe it's true because the people themselves said it.
Let me ask you this question.
People themselves said it.
Let me ask you this question. I have a list here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 issues. All terrible violations of rights of Gambians. You have agreed that they are all terrible violations of Gambians.
Since you told me, since I knew.
And these have persisted for 20 years in which you worked for the government. Isn't any single one of them serious enough for you not to want to associate yourself with that government?
Yeah, they are serious. Nobody wants to associate with abuses.
But you did for 20 years, silently.
Unknowingly.
Well, you
some
knew
of them, definitely, to be honest.
But you knew them, Madam Vice President.
After, yes.
Huh? You knew the killing of Deda Haidara?
The killing of Deda Haidara, the details came out in this commission, definitely. That
you knew about...
I knew Deda passed away. Look, Deda
you knew about the killing of the Ghanaians?
I heard about it, yeah, I heard about it.
But you knew?
I didn't know they were killed by any, who killed them. But they said, what they told me was that these were backway people. Because security told me that they were backway people. And when people came, I think people came to my office, I even called security. They explained that these are backway people who is only something that went wrong. When they were, that there was a Senegalese something, I don't know, involved, and somebody else, and that it was only backway that went wrong. People who were going by the backway, and something happened. This is what I was informed.
What was that something that happened?
No, they said these people died. Some Ghanaians died because they owed, I don't know, a boat owner or something, some money, and that he didn't pay them, and that that Senegalese, boat owner, I think, had somebody in Senegal as a counterpart. I don't know.
Seriously?
These were just explanations.
Seriously, Madam Vice
These were explanations given to...
Is this your position on that issue?
That was not my position. It was a position given to me, not my position.
But okay,
I don't have a position. They said Ghanaians died. How would I know? I was not involved in giving directives, directions on that, in that regard, or directives. I was not involved. Just Ghanaians died. It was a mystery. But when we asked security, I asked them at the level of security. They said, "Oh, it could be that this this backway." Then was happening a lot. Sometimes people take people's monies and then they don't take them to the back way as they expect. They don't take them to Europe or America as they expect.
Allow me now to ask questions on that. You know, as Vice President, that there were investigations carried out by the UN and ECOWAS on this matter?
Yes, after I knew, yes.
And you knew that those reports suggested that the killings were done by security officers?
I knew when I went to Ghana. I didn't know again. But when I went to Ghana, then there was this protest.
Exactly.
They thought Jammeh was coming, so they protested, and I was the one who went. So then I met Ibn Chambers. He was the one who explained those details to me. He said, "This is." I said, "Well, I don't know. This is."
How did you feel, Madam Vice President?
I felt bad because it's my country.
Let me finish. Here you are in a foreign country, and you are confronted that your own government, which you served as Vice President, unlawfully executed 46 or 44 of their citizens.
I don't know the amount, but they said it, yes.
How did you feel?
I felt bad because I was representing the country. And
your country, in fact, paid $500,000.
I had that, but again, that was not discussed by us, but I had it, yes.
You had it? You were horrified by it. You must have.
I don't know what the payment, why the compensation.
But did you resign your job?
No, I didn't.
You still continue to be associated with this government.
Up to 2016, yes.
So you would serve that government no matter what it did.
No.
Even if Jammeh were to crown himself king, you would have served.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. No further questions.
Thank you very much indeed, Dama Council. Thank you, Madam Vice President. And thank you for coming to testify before the Commission. Clearly, for almost 2.5 hours, you were in the hot seat. And I believe you would understand if you contextualize
we are used to hot seats, so
that occurred in this country for 22 years, that somebody of your stature coming here would clearly be in the hot seat. It's all to help us know what really happened, establish the truth with a view to promoting reconciliation and the healing in the country. But thank you again for coming to the Commission and testifying here. I have two very small points. The first concerns the meeting of the Security Council on the 10th of April, 2000. At first, you had indicated that the decision taken by the council was for the security forces to stabilize the situation. Council tried to get you to say if it was deployment of the armed forces in a civilian situation like that. You didn't. The CDS, Jata, had said that after that meeting, you had whispered, I believe it was whispered, whispered to him that now is for you to deploy. He said that was order. But then subsequently you came back.
No, but I don't agree. Let me just say, Mr. Chairman, I don't whisper usually. Whatever I say it in public. I'm not the type who whispers. Anything I say, even during the demonstration, I remember people were wanting to talk to me on this side. I said, no, whatever you have to say, come and say it here. Because I know the way security operates in this country. They can tell you one thing today, and they themselves told me that's what they do. They pull head. That means when things are tough, they can even come up with a decision and say they didn't decide. Since I knew that, I knew how to work with security. Yeah. Everything they say, they have to say it right there, and all of us hear it. I don't whisper to people.
My emphasis or point is really on stabilizing
the situation,
use of force, and the deployment. When you replied,
they want you to push this forward.
For sure. No, don't worry.
It's okay.
When you, thank you very much. When you were replying to Council's question about use of force, that's when you came out and said, no, we didn't ask them to use force. We deployed them.
Yes, deployment, the council agreed that definitely all the services should
deploy
yes.
The armed forces. You did deploy.
All the services, yes.
Fine. That's all right. That's good then.
All the services.
That is a settled matter now.
To deploy and ensure that there is stability in the country, yes.
The second one is, if you can help us with, for our records, the letter that Njie gave you either the 9th or the 10th of April before he left for Havana, the letter that he gave asking you to be the acting president.
Those letters, there are many of them, but they are at the president's office. I wouldn't have them.
Okay, if it's in the president's office.
It's the office of the president. They have them in their records. And then immediately he comes, he revokes.
Fine. We will try and get
if there is a letter, it will be there, yes.
To look into this question of...
He gives you what your responsibilities are, what you should oversee in his absence.
Do you recall if there was any reference in that letter to Commander-in-Chief?
No, I'm saying he doesn't usually. The president guards that position. The issue of security, he doesn't joke about. He doesn't give it to anybody. I can tell you that. The army only reports to him. They don't even come to me. For me, it's only Security Council. The NIA, the police. When he's in country, all the ministers go there. Even if he's not, the ministers stay there until he comes, he takes the decision. Because they can have sensitive issues or critical issues to talk about. And usually that doesn't come to Security. Security Council, we only talk about the general stability of the country. Those are the things they discuss with me.
And one last point that Council was struggling with is just for information, the UNDP, UN resident.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who it was. Yeah.
Fadzai.
Huh?
Fadzai from Zimbabwe. I was in the office that day. I wouldn't get into the long discussions that we had that morning, the day that Fadzai was declared PNG here in the Gambia. It caused quite a bit of a problem at the UN, and especially for me that morning.
But I said he did that to a lot of ambassadors as well, diplomats.
Yes, if you have any questions, I'll start from there. Commissioner Carr, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony, Madam Vice President. I have a couple of questions that I want to ask. The first is, what does loyalty mean to you?
Loyalty is loyalty to my country. I'm appointed, yes, by a president, but when loyalty comes, it should be to the country, the real and the Gambian people. That's what loyalty is. He himself said it. The president, when he said, you are not loyal to me. You are loyal to the country. He tells people, anytime he appoints you. Well, that's what he says. De facto, the jure might be different, but that's what he says.
Does he do that? Does he do that?
Well, he says loyalty to your country, but of course, with a strong president, loyalty to the president, I guess it's in addition to the country. Because like when security services swear, they swear loyalty to the commander-in-chief. As part of the swearing they do. Not just to their country, but to the commander-in-chief. They have about 6 oaths, I think they give.
Thank you. The next question is, do you think someone can serve in Jammeh's government for close to 20 years if you are not loyal to his ideals?
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you don't interfere with what he does, so maybe he lives with it. But I wouldn't. Only Jammeh can talk for himself when he comes to the commission. I can't speak for Jammeh.
Talking from your own personal experience.
I was loyal to my country. I had somebody who was the head, and he, of course, delegates responsibility to me, and I carry out the responsibility to the best of my ability. That much I know.
Another question. What's your biggest lesson serving in government for almost 20 years? Thank you.
Well, that is not easy to be in government. That I know. Because when you're in government, some people would agree with what the government does, others would not agree. But in this particular government, of course, there are a lot of challenges. Every time there is some form of instability in the country. Every time all these stories that have been mentioned, these abuses are talked about, the international committee comes to you. My office was the most visited, I presume, besides justice, passed by international committee like the people from Geneva visited me, sometimes UN organizations, but I always call a meeting, involve justice, involve everyone, if I know what the issue is. Sometimes letters are written to us relating to human rights issues, and we send it to the president, because some of these things we cannot answer, we don't know that this thing has happened or that thing has happened, how it happened. I cannot answer something I don't know. So we send it to him. Or if it is justice, we send it to justice. And justice has the same problem. Sometimes they cannot answer the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kinte.
Madam Njie Saidy, thank you very much for appearing here. You told us that you sought audience of the president while he was in Cuba. And you successfully got it through your protocol. And you narrated the scenario on the ground as at the moment. And you did not tell us his response on the matter.
No, he said, okay, he said, Vice, where is the... who is in your office? The other service chiefs.
Yeah, meaning he did not talk to you about decisions.
But I admitted that. I said, if he said that, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't remember that. Saying this, what the lead counsel told me. I don't really remember, to be honest.
No, don't prejudice. My question is still ahead. Who specifically did you give hand over the phone for him to talk to? Because you couldn't remember him telling you anything.
He spoke to Jata.
Babukar Jata.
Yes, and then there were others also.
Yeah, but specifically you handed the phone to Babukar. And the president spoke to Babukar about the decisions he had.
Well, I don't know what he spoke to him about. But I know, you see, when somebody speaks on the other side, you don't know what they said. And Babukar didn't say anything because, you see, these service chiefs, unlike me, they just say, yes, sir, yes, sir. They don't say anything. You don't hear what the issue was. So, but I presume it should be about April 10, but I don't know.
And you didn't, no, obviously it is.
I asked Babukar, but I don't think he told us anything. I said,
Babukar, yes. You asked Babukar,
he just said, he just kept quiet and laughed over it.
Couldn't give you any feedback?
No.
My second question.
They had what I told him.
My second point was, you were deploying military or whatever forces. Did you caution against violence?
So there are times when I told them, definitely when they use guns, I say don't kill anybody. That one I always say.
No, I mean,
they are going to use guns. But I don't remember in that instant.
For this specific instant,
I don't remember.
Did you caution against violent approach or?
Because I didn't think they would be violent. I never thought they would be.
No, but that's not answering. Did you caution?
I didn't because I didn't
use of.
I always say it in many occasions, yes. But I don't know what I told them at that time.
This
it was a long time, and it was a chaotic situation. You don't have records.
Okay.
Definitely, I cannot say things I didn't remember.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Vice President, you informed the Commission that you had the opportunity to visit some of the victims of April 10th and 11th. You told the Commission that you had the opportunity to visit some of the victims at the Royal Victoria Hospital.
Yeah.
Correct? Did you follow up on these cases to see whether they were recovering or not at all?
No, because what they told me, when the president, I told you, when the president gives you a responsibility, he takes it over. He himself said he was going to cure, he said he was going to cure all those who were affected, particularly those who are maimed and, wounded. That he was going to do so. I don't know whether he said anything about those who died, that he was going to compensate. I didn't hear that. But I heard him talking about giving cure to those who are wounded and maimed. He talked about that.
But as you put it yourself, Madam Vice President, as the mother of the nation, don't you think it was your responsibility
I felt it, and I told the president. And I reported back to the president. That's what I did in cabinet. And he took it upon himself that he was going to do it.
Are you aware that some of these victims are still living with bullets?
Yes, I knew during the commission. In fact, a lot of them explained, yes.
Then perhaps I think you might owe their families and I think perhaps you might owe the victims and their families an apology.
Of course. Because I was part of the government, I would apologize, definitely.
Thank you. My second question, I think for most of the questions, ESA listed 12 different issues, and your response to most of them was, I don't remember, I don't know, I read about it, I heard about it.
Yes.
Again, as the mother of the nations, when you did get to find out about it, did you ever engage Njie to find out if these things were true, such as the death of Data Haidara, who you said you knew yourself?
The death of Data, I said, you hear in the grapevines, and he himself said he didn't kill him. You remember he said it openly in one of the meetings. I don't remember which meeting we went to. He himself said it.
But going back to what you said normally you would hear from the grapevine.
Yeah. Generally, on all things, yes.
But did you try to inquire what was the state's role, if any, in his death, as well as all the other human rights violations?
No, because, you see, it's not easy. Where I worked, I cannot follow up everything that is heard or said. There were so many things said in this government during this period, and so many things heard, and so many things that were reported, that if I alone want to follow that with my full plate, they gave me a full plate to deal with, from morning to evening, I don't think I would have done justice. I think every ministry has a responsibility to do something. And my ministry, yes, I was vice president, that's true, but honestly, to be honest, to follow up on all these issues was difficult.
I agree. It might be very difficult to follow up, but then you also had the amnesty reports, and you also engaged.
And I always send it to him. Yeah.
Good. Can you tell us in what instance, if at all, did you act on some of the recommendations or the issues
we
raised?
usually do it in Security Council. We write and say, well, this is what is said. Perhaps we need to find out whether really this is what happened. Those sorts of things. And we send it to the president.
Did you investigate or try to remedy?
We always write. It was his minuting. It's always minuting to him, and we send him the letters. But most of the time, you'll see in the copies that he got the letter himself.
Okay, what I'm trying to get at is, did you follow up to see if any of those issues were investigated, or to see how to address some of those issues personally?
To be honest, I didn't follow, no.
All right, thank you. And perhaps the apology can come in your final remarks as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Just to remind you that Council's list was 10, and as he read that out, I thought the good 10 was the 10 commandments, and now he has the 10 sins of Njie.
That's a good one, Mr. Chair.
So, Imam C, you have the floor, please.
Saidy Isatou Njie.
Madam Isatou Njie.
Mudo nani ko kal, mudo nani pular jor fe toso fof ko halda fof.
Yo minde ko bitti kam tan ko wiide mande.
Imam.
I'm not translator.
Okay. We waiting for the translation.
Oh, he can speak Wolof. He can speak Wolof. I would understand. Manding.
No, I heard it.
Wiide mande.
No, Wolof.
Bimi ko betti kam tan ko wiide mande ñakku sukaabe mo fodde balle didi attina.
It's just that you said that the demonstration of the students, it took 2 days, you are not aware of it.
Yeah.
That surprised me.
Sabu
because Because the position that you were mounting at that time. You said you have tried the president 2 days, you could not get in touch with him. It's 2 days, it's 1 day, the second day I was able to get him. Because this one is surprised me seriously. The position that you were, any position that you were able to mount at that time in the government at that time, if at all it is apart from vice president, you cannot say there is nothing that you are not aware of. What is left is that what was vested on you, just clear the things. It's true that you were a female in your job, but the position that you were mounting, apart from Yaya Jammeh, there is no one who can give order. The soldiers, where they went to the demonstration, they cannot go to that demonstration place without an order. And that order cannot come from any order else, from Yaya, except Yaya Jammeh, and that will come from Yaya Jammeh to you. Then today, where you are sitting here, you should not be in support of Yaya Jammeh, and you know that you have taken an oath. You can say the truth, accept that he was the one who gave you the order. Imam, because where you are here, the trust that people have on you. You saying that I was not aware of this and this. You can answer. Hardly. You can see that you will not have any disgrace on it, and you will not have any difficulty in it. You can forgive me.
Okay, Imam C.
Imam C.
I'm
also a Muslim like you. I know you are the one, you read the Quran more than I do. I will not hold this Quran and lie. I will not assist Yaya Jammeh of anything. If you ask the people who were in the government, if there is anybody who used to tell him the truth more than mine, people don't know. If I tell you that the day these students were
o laabani dum ko be balalo mi anda wido wonde ko ni o wi kam mi wasata o wi non sabu hala makko kono wela hala makko wela
because I was not there
kono wiide wonde no o wi kam halan soldaru be
soldiers that go and
to halan dum jango la kara tawar kam TRC na do kono TRC la kara
TRC another TRC
den non mi fenata sabude dum sabum dem andi mi tawoya dum
I know the day of judgment I find it there.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I did not hear anything.
Definitely, min ko wi mami ko dum woni amam. Min fenande wona ko amam de. Misiki so lamdi do kam bowal and.
Madam Vice President.
Kulle fena mi saka min nanga alquran sa.
Madam Vice President. Could you kindly restate what you have just said and allow the interpreter to interpret
what did they not hear? Because I don't know. The last bit?
English.
Yes.
Almost everything.
Almost everything, yes. Fast.
Yeah, maybe I speak another language then.
No, the problem is
you are going
the
fast.
Interpreter was struggling to keep up with you. So now it is consecutive interpretation. It's not simultaneous.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, koko wi mami ko tan. Wi mami imam min.
That's what I tell you.
Andube kam ede hen di lady andirani kam fenande. Fenande mi yida dum
sa even security they don't know me about lying.
Security sanda do andi.
Even the security they knows.
So be wadi goddum I challenge them on it.
What anything they do I normally challenge them on it.
Jom lady non kanko ardi lady mako.
The head of the state, he is the head of the state.
Moto do.
He is
what the challenge
you see, I cannot challenge him. He is the head.
The office
his office, and not that every day I used to go to get into his office. Sometimes it will be 1 year I did not get into his office. I know you people, some of you will not believe it. Sometimes you meet at the cabinet. We normally meet in meetings. Other than that, these are the only things that is in. Now where am I going to have discussion with him? Only normally we meet in cabinets.
Security Council
sometimes Security Council will write to him and advise him. And we did that. But sometimes he will not respond to us.
So we don't
know what was his idea. And for him, if you discuss with him up to an extent, sometimes he will get angry. And also, we don't normally want for him to get angry about certain things. There are certain things, if we meet there, we discussed. We joke. We joke about this ethnicity, Jola and Pulas and Mandingas.
Joking terms.
Joking terms. We have joking terms. There you will see that he will have fresh. When he is happy, that is good for us. Because there he will normally listen to us. And as a human being, anyway, the Almighty Allah created you. You just try. But for us also, it was not easy for us. Don't think that it was only the position.
I hope I'm not fast again. I hope I'm not.
If at all I was unable to change anything, I will do it. What I was able to do, some people they know it. Anything they said here, I leave everything in the hands of the Almighty. Because for me, what is in me, that's what I said. What I know, that's what I said. And something that I cannot do anything.
Vice President,
to be a vice president, that doesn't mean that you will have power. I don't know whether some of you know that. I can say something, he will not listen to me, he go and do his own. In the country, there are certain people, some people, they don't have even position. They will talk to him, he will take those people's advice. We in the government, we know that. But we cannot do, there's nothing we can do to that. It will be that he has did what he want to do. If a person is listening on one ear, it's difficult to regulate that person or to influence that person. This is why when he went to Cuba, he said to me that, he said to me that now you can hold a meeting. Anything you can give me the feedback.
I want the feedback on 20 minutes. You
give me the minute in 20 minutes sometimes. I know that.
President not
that president used to talk to only us. He used to talk with many people in this country.
Security Council
there, if you do not listen to what the National Security Council has said, they will go and inform you, and now they will point fingers on me. You see, we securities, they will know that it was not easy for us. The Gambians, some Gambians whom I work with, they know, they are listening. Gambians know that I am difficult. I'm a difficult person, and if you are working with someone who is like that, it's difficult to change that person.
Min ko dum yinmi tan imam si ganda.
This is what you imam see for
wana ko webi de na webi jodade do tawi ko ya wadani ni ko wadi wadani kambe na be had the responsibility kambe na be fono kambe hore mabbe be data kulle de
they know they have the responsibility. It is they the Gambians, some of them they are the one who
kambe be data jaygol
they light fire
because be jodo to be yettina goddum to do be yawta min min wonbe
they are sitting and relate information to him
so kulle de do halota ko.
It is difficult to talk about this. I leave everything in the hands of the Almighty.
Madam Vice President, if there are no further questions, if you have any closing remarks to make, please proceed to do so.
Okay. First of all, I wish to thank the Commission, and of course, by extension, the government that set up the Commission, the Trrc. And I think it has laudable objectives, which says never again, the truth shall set you free, and all these things that you put here, reconciliation and reparations. I think these are all laudable. Yes, we have other truth commissions in other parts of the world, but I think this one is a unique one. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the government for this foresight, and also, of course, the Ministry of Justice and you, the commissioners, because this is not an easy thing to do. We are trying to dig out what happened from 1994 to 2017, I think, January 2017. And a lot has happened. We all agree the issues raised by the council here, which some of which I said I know and some of which I said I don't know, did happen. But I agreed that all of them, yes, later I knew they did happen. And that means a lot has happened in this country. And I want to therefore thank you for assisting government in this regard. But also thank anybody who was willing to come to the Commission and also assist you as well. But I just want to also say, before going further, to apologize to all the victims that suffered all these various violations that were raised, and that were even highlighted here in the Commission. After all, the junglers, I don't think they were forced to say anything, but they came and said what they had to see. And I think every other Gambian was equally shocked, including myself. You may not believe it, but we were shocked that people would be strangled and buried. We didn't know that. Even after, at the latter years, 2015, 16, 14, 15, 16, when I knew about, when they talked about this jungler issue, I didn't know that perhaps two are posted in my house. I didn't know. So, of course, when they were in my house, they didn't show anything like being killers or anything like that. They only performed their duties to provide special protection. But just as I was shocked, I'm sure every other Gambian is equally shocked. So I would say the whole nation is going through shock, and the whole nation needs therapy. I would say that, to be honest, from top to bottom. Because these revelations are traumatizing, mind-boggling. You cannot even know what to do if you hear this. Because I'm not saying just allegation or anything, but people came themselves and said they did this. So I would just appeal for healing for the whole country, not just for victims, direct victims, or I think everybody was a victim, indirectly or directly, I don't know. But that's what I felt. And I feel that I thank the Commission and the government, as I said, for looking ahead now and looking at issues of reconciliation, reparation, and so on. And I hope those things are quickened as well, because we still are in a divided society, in a divided country, I would say that. Then the apology continues. Of course, April 10th and 11th, I was on the ground. I apologized to the families, because I even said it. I said, the killing of any child, I'm a mother, killing of any child definitely is unforgivable. If it is deliberate, it's unforgivable. And I said, therefore, those who lost their children, we apologize to them on behalf of the government, because it's the government that was here. We apologize on behalf of the nation as well. There was a nation, and there is still a nation, for what has happened, for the loss of their loved ones, for the pain they went through in 22 years, would I say. That was painful. And we are asking for their forgiveness on behalf of everybody, and including myself. And of course, for those who are maimed and wounded, that also you didn't die, but you are still suffering. And for the fact that they were not given treatment, because the president definitely promised treatment abroad and was just waiting, he said, for a doctor's report. I think there is this medical board they have in RVTH, and he would have given them treatment abroad. He would have sought help from, he said, friends of the Gambia, and complemented by government funds, because usually that fund is controlled by the office of the president, even though the Minister of Health gets involved, but the fund is controlled by the office of the president. He approves who goes on treatment and who doesn't. So I didn't know what happened. Didn't he have enough funds from friends of the Gambia? Because I know the Gambia didn't have many friends at that time, if you have to be honest, because you are always not in good terms with some of the international committees, so they will not be your friends. But the few friends maybe that the Gambia had, maybe he was going to approach them. This is the impression he gave me. So I want to apologize to those people that for 22 years they didn't have the treatment that they should have. And they are still suffering, their families are suffering. And today, they would have served society in another way. And I want to apologize for that. And appeal that whatever can be done now, since the last government has failed doing anything that can be done by the present government or anybody in society, because government cannot do it all, and friends of the Gambia included, should help to ensure that that treatment is provided on time. You want to apologize to those families as well and the victims themselves. And by extension, any other victim among all these things that have been raised. The 10, you said 10 sins, the 10 commandments, whatever it's called, but these are 10 sins in this instance, I think, that the chairman said. We apologize for them because I was in government. I cannot, whether I was directly involved, I directed it, I didn't direct it, most of them I didn't direct, but I take responsibility because I was in government. Whether knowingly or unknowingly, I still take responsibility. I don't run away from responsibility. It's what I don't know, I say I don't know. And I therefore want to apologize to all Gambians for what has happened, definitely. All these things recounted in this commission, we've had them. And I just believe that perhaps people will not just come and say false stories in the commission. I don't believe that. And that's why I'm saying we apologize that these things did happen in 22 years, and we hope that it will never happen again. And inshallah, with God's guidance and protection, it will not happen. But coming to security itself, I came up with some recommendations. I think I sent it to the legal counsel, I don't know. Investigators brought it. But some of the things I raised was to do with, because all these things they explained to me after in Security Council. We discussed certain things. We said they don't use the riot gear. Because if people died from gunshot wounds, that means they didn't use riot gear. That's not riot gear. We said they should, and so that was subsequent Security Council meetings we had. That was one of the things we discussed. And I emphasized that also. Because I didn't know what riot gear they use. I'm not a security person, but they explained to me that indeed they admitted they didn't have adequate riot gear. And from there we said, can we look at Friends of the Gambia, the Inspector General of Police went to certain places like Trrc and other places to try and get that riot gear so that they have a lot of it, enough of it. So that internal security would be the responsibility only of Minister of Interior. You don't have to have the army to come and complement as we, during our time, happened. That the army would complement the efforts of the PIU and the general duties if the situation cannot be handled. I think army should be the last resort. And perhaps we agree that we don't want to even see uniforms. That's the last thing we want to see in the streets. I know army people are well-meaning. Let me tell you, it's not every soldier who is bad also. I hope people understand, because I've had the opportunity to work with service chiefs, to work with people some people in defense and interior. I mean, just to shorten it, like immigration and others. Not all of them are bad. But of course there are bad people. Maybe they are directed as well. Maybe that's what they did. Maybe they made mistakes as well. So I want to appeal to the general public to know that yes, there is bad security, but we cannot do away with security. Because if you look down on security, insecurity is even worse. So let's see how we can reform the security services. Because, and that's what the government, I presume, is doing already. There's a policy, and there are strategies put in place. And I think they are moving in the right direction, I hope. I'm not in government, but I believe that. And I think that's the trend to take with regards to that. They also told me about I told them, I said, this management, we are poor at managing crowds, it seems. Because this was poor crowd management too. The outcome of this investigation on April 10 and 11 shows that the crowds were not properly managed. Crowd management and control, they must look at how to do it in a professional way, in an acceptable way. I think I said that also in my submission. I said a lot of things. Community policing, I even mentioned that indeed community policing should be encouraged, but it should not only be the police who are involved. Other security services should be part of the, because it happened during our time. There was community policing. After this event, they started having community policing. They started having their police bands, I think, and army bands, entertaining people so that they build relations with civilians. So the military-civilian relation needs to be built, definitely, and enhanced, and there must be trust. Trust, that's what we talked about at the time. And that trust is critical between the military and the civilian. After all, we always say in our terms that military and security are only civilians in uniform. When they pull out the uniform, they are back to being civilians. So they are part of the society. They are our own sons and daughters. But let's also teach them to be professional. So we need to inculcate a lot of professionalism and discipline in the security services. I made a lot of recommendations. I don't want to belabor the point. I know maybe we have other issues to address. But I just want to apologize, as I said, fervently, and hope that this sort of thing would not happen again. We only hope and pray. And for Gambians to understand and find it in their hearts to forgive. Not forget, but forgive. Because forgetting is difficult when you go through hardship, when you are traumatized. So without much ado, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Excellency, Madam Vice President, thank you very much indeed for coming to testify before the Commission. We really appreciate the time that you've taken, especially coming early in the day and sitting here for hours waiting to be called. We really appreciate your gesture.
It's a duty and a responsibility.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
This brings us to the end of the 8th session, our 3-week sessions. We are going to not take a break at all. We will continue within the Commission here on committee meetings and other internal issues until it's a 7-day break until the 14th. 14th, we resume the 9th session, 3-week session of the Commission. That will be from the 14th to the 31st of October. If there isn't any other point to raise, we will see you on the 14th of October. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much indeed.